Chapter 24-21 The helpless old master Yi. Dr. Deng thought for a moment and agreed to Yun Chujia's suggestion. He really had no way to go against his conscience and report them. He had no choice but to go back and study them first. Yun Chujia whispered a few more words to Dr. Deng. Dr. Deng was stunned and nodded. Before leaving, Yun Chujia gave Dr. Deng a simple wooden box as usual. Dr. Deng casually put it into his storage ring. He did not have the time to open the wooden box from last time. Dr. Deng walked out of Xiaohua Garden. After walking for a while, he saw Lu Shi waiting with her maid. Dr. Deng, can little Jiu's looks recover? Lu Shi asked from afar. I'm not sure. It seems that other than the juice of the willow leaf and grass, they were also contaminated with other poisonous plants. I'll go back and study it carefully. I'll come back for a consultation in 2 days. During this period, just let them continue to use the medicinal soup from before. At least it can alleviate the pain, Dr. Deng said according to what Yun Chujia had taught him. Lu Shi was delighted. As expected, what she said to Yi Xinwan was right. Dr. Deng could not find anything at all. He just said that there were poisonous herbs and so on. That little bastard was completely finished. Lu Shi paid the fee and was about to send a servant to send Dr. Deng out of the Yi residence when housekeeper Fu walked over. Housekeeper Fu first bowed to Lu Shi, then said, "Eldest madam, the old master wants to see Dr. Deng and ask about Miss Cousin's condition." Lu Shi naturally could not stop him, but she felt that there was no flaw. Moreover, even if they really found something, the old master Yi would not dare to fall out with Yi Xinwan. Housekeeper Fu brought Dr. Deng to old master Yi's study. After old master Yi let Dr. Deng sit down, he said, "How is little Jiu's condition? Can her appearance recover?" "Old master Yi, this old man does not dare to hide it from you. Miss Yun was poisoned by the salt-free powder this time. There is no antidote to the salt-free powder. Although this old man has a slight idea of how to detoxify it, the hope is not high. Don't worry, I will keep this matter a secret. I only said to the eldest madam that Miss Yun might have touched some poisonous grass by mistake." Dr. Deng's words were naturally told to him by Yun Chujia. Dr. Deng sighed in his heart. That little girl was really smart. She even guessed that old master Yi would ask him questions. After old master Yi heard that Yun Chujia was disfigured, he guessed a little. His heart was very complicated. On one hand, he felt that he had let down his great-granddaughter, who he had just recognized. On the other hand, he resented Yi Xinwen's ruthlessness. However, he was also afraid of the Fan family's influence. He did not dare to speak openly with Yi Xinwan and openly fall out with her. "Since you know your limits, I won't say anything more. If you can cure little Jiu, this old man will definitely not mistreat you. You may leave." Old Master Yi waved his hand at Dr. Deng. After Dr. Deng left, old Master Yi slumped into his chair dejectedly. He felt a little guilty about what happened to Yilan back then. He did not expect that even though Lan's daughter was disfigured by Xian Wan, he was powerless to do anything about it. As the head of the Yi family, he was truly an extremely cowardly person. Fortunately, he had already sent Yuan Liang out. Otherwise, if he were to find out, he would definitely cause another huge ruckus. Although the Yi family looked like a blossoming flower on the outside, in reality, they could not withstand a single blow. They could no longer endure any more torment. "Little ninth girl, I only hope that you can survive this calamity." Old Master Yi did not know that a certain Jiu who had already been disfigured was extremely at ease at this moment. This fellow had set up a hammock in the spirit peach forest. Lying on it, he was reading a script and eating fruits. He was extremely at ease. Chapter 24-22 The little angel had arrived. Yun Chujia was not worried at all that someone would come over to find out what was going on. Those people were extremely afraid of death. Unless their balls were hurting, they would only come over to look for trouble. As for the antidote for the salt-free powder, this fellow naturally knew about it because this fellow had Guai Chao, this little expert in detoxification. When she saw the few pots of poison soup yesterday, the Guai Chao in her dantian was almost overjoyed. That was why Yun Chujio was able to determine that someone had tampered with the medicinal soup. Yun Chujio finally managed to suppress the strange grass that was clamoring. She took out the 100 herbs mirror and observed the reaction of the strange grass to guess the ingredients of the antidote for Guai Chao. The stalk of purple blood forsythia that Dr. Deng took out was indeed the main ingredient of the antidote, but it had no effect if used directly. It could only be used as the antidote after it was roasted. In addition, there were a few other spiritual herbs that needed to be added to become the antidote for Guai Chao. Yun Chujio placed the few spirit herbs into the wooden box and handed them over to Dr. Deng. It would depend on his luck. However, with her unintentional advice, she believed that as long as Dr. Deng was not too stupid, he would definitely come up with an antidote. TSK, this could also be considered a big gift to him. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, she heard a buzzing sound. She looked up and saw more than 10 silver ring spirit bees gathering honey on the spirit peach blossom. The poison of these spirit bees was not strong, and they usually would not take the initiative to attack people, so most people would not pay too much attention to them. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. She had originally planned to seek revenge on the Yi mother and daughter after some time, but she did not expect the little angel-like helper to arrive. It was really wonderful. Yun Chujio suddenly jumped up from the hammock and reached out to grab a silver-ringed spirit bee. The silver-ringed spirit bee was about to pierce through Yun Chujio's right hand, but it was frightened by the pressure of the small flame. It lowered its head and didn't dare to struggle anymore. Yun Chujio was stunned. She didn't expect the small flame to become more powerful. It seemed that the fire marrow from the divine axe and heavenly pit was not wasted. Yun Chujio easily established a temporary contract with the silver-ringed spirit bee, and she also established a temporary contract with the other 10 or so bees. Yun Chujio revealed a sinister smile. It was the most interesting way to give someone a taste of their own medicine. Didn't the Yi mother and daughter like to ruin other people's looks? Then let them have a taste of being disfigured. After Dr. Deng and housekeeper Fu left, Lu Shi turned around and went to the guest house. Xinhuan, things are pretty much as you guessed. Dr. Deng guessed that the little bastard was poisoned by some poisonous herb. However, housekeeper Fu called Dr. Deng away just now and said that the old master wanted to see him. Is there anything wrong? Yi Xinhuan snorted indifferently, let alone that quack doctor, it's impossible for him to know about my medicinal powder. Even if he really knew, the little bastard's appearance has already been ruined. What can grandfather really do to me? Sister-in-law, in grandfather's eyes, the most important thing is not which junior, but the Yi family. Otherwise, that bitch Yilan was so doted on back then. In the end, wasn't she still removed from the list? Lu Shi nodded. Xinhuan, you're the one who saw it clearly. That little bitch's appearance has already been ruined. She won't be able to stir up any more waves in the future. Back then, Yilan overestimated herself and went against you, sister. In the end, not only did she lose her little life early, but now her daughter has also been disfigured. It's really karma. Humph. All of this was brought on by that bitch Yilan. She, a daughter of a concubine, still wants to suppress me in every way. She's really courting death. Sister-in-law, in the future, find an opportunity to let that bitch sow her seed and reunite with that bitch Yilan. Yi Xinhuan said coldly. Chapter 24-23 was also very helpless Achoo. Achoo. A certain Jiu, who was drawing with a brush, sneezed twice. Damn it, it's probably Lu Shi and the others scolding me again. If it wasn't for the fear of causing too much trouble, I really wanted to take care of Lu Shi and Gu Shi as well. Although Yun Chujio had only seen the Yi mother and daughter once, her drawing was very lifelike. The dozen silver ring spirit bees stopped on Yun Chujia's body and looked at the portrait curiously. They were actually very helpless about being rejected by the contract. Because, they couldn't defeat this pervert in front of them. Ah! Ah! After Yun Chujio finished drawing, she said to the spirit bees, "Do you see them? These two people are your targets. Go and scout around first, confirm the courtyard they live in, and then come back to find me." The spirit bees heard Yun Chujia's instructions and flew away obediently. Yun Chujio took out a pot of medicinal soup with salt-free powder from her storage ring and started to drink it. Fortunately, the servants were all sent away by Yun Chujio. Otherwise, they would have been scared to death when they saw this scene. Yun Chujio felt that it was no wonder that others said she was a pervert. It seemed that she was quite a pervert. If it were an ordinary person, after drinking such a big bowl of medicinal soup, not to mention that it was highly poisonous, even if they were stuffed to death, they would still be stuffed to death. After Yun Chujio finished drinking the medicinal soup, she held a small porcelain bowl in her hand and said to the Guai Chao in her dantian, "Spit out a small part of the salt-free powder for me. I have use for it. In the future, when I have the opportunity, I will get the formula and let you drink to your heart's content." The Guai Chao in her dantian reluctantly squeezed out a few drops of liquid. Yun Chujio took a sniff and found that there was no smell. It seemed that it was the salt-free powder. After Yun Chujio diluted the few drops of liquid, she carefully got more than 10 leaves. The leaves that Yun Chujio chose were the ironcore camphor tree that was commonly planted in the Yi family's courtyard. This tree was very resistant to drought, so its leaves were relatively small and in the shape of a drum, which was convenient for collecting rainwater. Yun Chujio just happened to put the salt-free water into the drum. As soon as Yun Chujio was done, the dozen silver ring spirit bees flew back. "You guys think of a way to get the medicinal juice on the leaves into their clothes or the water used to wash their faces. You can also put it in their food. After you succeed, I have some honey from the red-eyed poisonous tail bees. I'll give you some when the time comes. Oh right, the medicinal juice on the leaves has a corrosive effect. Be careful not to get it on yourself." After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she handed the soaked leaves to the spirit bees. Since the leaves were not stained with the medicinal juice, they would not have any effect on themselves if they held on to the leaves. More than 10 spirit bees held on to the leaves carefully and flew towards the courtyard where the Yi mother and daughter lived. These spirit bees were quite intelligent. They did not act rashly. Instead, they stopped on a tree in the corner of the guest house, looking for a suitable time to poison. At this moment, Yi Bingying walked in from outside the courtyard. She wanted to marry Fan Mingchuan, so she planned to curry favor with the Yi family mother and daughter. Therefore, she came to the guest house very frequently at this stage. Fan Sushue did not know anyone in the Yi family, so she did not respond in a cold or warm manner. After entering the house, Yi Bingying greeted Yi Xinwan and said to Fan Sushue, "Sushue, there are many flowers in the back garden. There's nothing to do around here. Let me accompany you for a walk." Fan Sushue was indeed a little bored staying in the courtyard. She nodded and left the house with Yi Bingying. As soon as they entered the courtyard, more than 10 silver ring spirit bees flew down from the trees and circled around Fan Sukshu's head a few times before flying away. As the incident happened suddenly and the silver ring spirit bees were extremely fast, by the time everyone reacted, the silver ring spirit bees had already disappeared. Chapter 24 was affected. What's going on? Why are there spirit bees in this courtyard? Although Fan Sushue wasn't stung by the spirit bees, there were a few drops of water on her face and a few spots on her clothes. Yi Bingying, who was beside her, was also affected and a few drops of water splashed on her face. Yi Bingying smiled indifferently. These spirit bees probably flew over from the back garden. I saw that their claws seemed to be holding onto leaves. It's probably the dew on the leaves. It's fine. Fan Sushue did not smell anything else. She also felt that it should be fog, so she complained a few times and used her hand to wipe off the water droplets on her face. Then, she followed Yi Bingying to the back garden to admire the flowers. Yun Chujio was very satisfied when she saw the spirit bees returning from the triumphant return. After washing the remaining poison on the leaves with water, she directly destroyed the leaves and destroyed the traces. Yun Chujio kept her promise and gave some honey to the spirit bees. One by one, the spirit bees flew away in high spirits. Yun Chujio couldn't help but sigh. It was still easier to satisfy the spirit beasts. She just gave them some honey and sent them away. That night, Fan Sushue felt pain and itchiness on her face and hands. It became more and more serious and even began to fester. Fan Sushue cried out in fear. Sushue, Sushue, what's wrong? Yi Xinwan heard Fan Sukshu's cry and quickly ran over. Fan Sushue pointed at her hands and face in fear. Mother, how can my hands and face be like this? Yi Xinwan saw Fan Sukshu's condition and almost collapsed to the ground. She saw that several places on Fan Sukshu's fair face had begun to fester, and there were also several places on her hands that festered. Yi Xinwan roared at those servants, "Are you all dead? Hurry up and find the doctor. Sushue, don't run. When the doctor comes, he will definitely be able to cure you. When the time comes, you just need to apply some flawless muscle pills." Hearing Yi Xinwan's words, Fan Sushue calmed down a little. Yi Xinwan asked again, "Sushue, how did you do this? Logically speaking, no one in the Yi family would poison you. Could it be that you encountered some poisonous grass in the back garden today?" Fan Sushue thought about it carefully. "Mother, I didn't encounter any poisonous grass in the back garden. Could it be that a servant poisoned me?" When Yi Xinwan heard Fan Sukshu's words, she immediately tied up all the servants serving in the guest house, leaving only her confidant. "Beat them until they tell the truth. They have really rebelled against the heavens and actually dared to harm Sushue. They are courting death." Those servants naturally begged bitterly, saying that they had not poisoned Yunyun at all. Yi Xinwan would not listen to their explanations and had her confidants begin to torture her to extract a confession. Instantly, the guest house was filled with screams. In the dead of the night, the screams spread far and wide. Gu Shi and the others were alarmed. Lu Shi was the first to rush over. Yi Bingying was already asleep. When she heard the commotion, she also rushed over. On the way to the guest house, she felt an itch on her face and hands. She used her hands to scratch them a few times, but the pain was unbearable. It was not easy for her to reach the guest house. When she reached the guest house, Yi Bingying saw Fan Sukshu's miserable state. She immediately had an ominous premonition, and the pain on her face and hands became unbearable. She could not help but scream. Yi Xinwan was already very upset. When she heard Yi Bingying scream, she could not help but reprimand, "What are you shouting for? If you don't want to stay, get out." Although Lu Shi was displeased, she did not dare to say anything. She turned her head and was about to tell Yi Bingying to be quiet when she saw Yi Bingying's face and immediately screamed. Chapter 24-25, Could it be that there was no salt powder? "Bingyu, your face, how did your face get destroyed?" Lu Shi's voice was trembling. Yi Bingying looked down at her hand. It was already beginning to fester, just like Fan Sushue. When she looked in the mirror again, 2 spots of fester appeared on her pretty face. With a scream, she fainted. The guest house was once again thrown into chaos. Yi Xinwan had originally thought that it was the servants of the guest house who had caused Fan Sukshu's death. Now that she saw that Yi Bingying's face was also disfigured, it seemed that it was not the servants of the guest house who had poisoned her. Then what was going on? Lu Shi was more meticulous than Yi Xinwan. After comforting Yi Bingying, she asked, did you and Sushue touch any unknown spiritual herbs in the back garden? Or did you encounter anything unusual? Yi Bingying and Fan Sushue shook their heads repeatedly. They only sat in the pavilion in the back garden and didn't do anything else. At this moment, a maid on the ground said in a trembling voice, "First Madam, when the two young ladies were in the guest house's courtyard, a group of spiritual bees once made some water droplets on their faces and bodies. Could it be the problem of those water droplets?" When Fan Sushue heard what she said, she immediately said in a flustered and exasperated manner, "There is indeed such a thing. Yi Bingying, it's all your fault. If you didn't have to call me to the back garden, would I have suffered such a calamity? At that time, I still had to go back to the house to wash my face. You were the one who stopped me. Why are you so calm?" Although Yi Bingying wanted to curry favor with the Yi mother and daughter, her heart was in a mess now. She immediately retorted, "When did you say that you wanted to go back to the house to wash your face? Didn't you also guess that it was fog? Moreover, it might not have been caused by those few drops of water. If you want to blame it, it'll still blame you. Perhaps it was ants, whatever medicinal powder that accidentally got into some place that caused us to suffer." After Yi Bingying finished speaking, her face instantly revealed a terrified expression. Fan Sushue was stunned at first, then she went to beat Yi Bingying like crazy. "You're talking nonsense. It's impossible. It's definitely impossible. It's just that matter of fog. It definitely won't be the salt-free powder. It definitely won't be." Yi Xinwen's head buzzed. At first, it was painful and itchy, and then it began to fester. This was indeed the exact same symptoms as the salt-free powder's attack. She raised her head to look at the fester on Fan Sukshu's face. Her legs were so weak that she couldn't even stand. Fan Sukshu's appearance was exactly the same as the wounds she had caused in the concubines. This was caused by the salt-free powder. The more Yi Xinwan thought about it, the more terrified she became. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted. Immediately, the guest house was in a mess. Some went to pull the fight, and some went to wake Yi Xinwan up. There were also more than 10 servants who were tied up on the ground. After Old Master Yi received housekeeper Fuss report, he also rushed over. Although he did not show up when Yin Chujio was in trouble, he could not come when something happened to Fan Sushue because he was afraid that the Fan family would vent their anger on the Yi family. After Old Master Yi arrived, the chaotic situation in the guest house was finally alleviated. Old Master Yi was also shocked when he saw the wounds on Fan Sushue and Yi Bingying's faces. He asked the two of them what happened. Yi Bingying told them what happened. Of course, she was not stupid enough to say that there was no salt powder or anything. She only said that they had wandered around the back garden and it became like this. Fan Sushue insisted that it was caused by those spirit bees. She blamed Yi Bingying for causing her to become like this. At this moment, Yi Xinwan also woke up. Although she felt that there was a high chance that Fan Sushue had been poisoned by salt-free, she still had a glimmer of hope in her heart. She hoped that after Dr. Deng examined her, he would come to another conclusion. Chapter 24-26 was indeed affected by the salt-free powder. Soon, Dr. Deng was invited in. Dr. Deng saw the appearance of Fan Sushue and Yi Bingying and could not help but be shocked. The wind-blade rabbit in the medicinal soup bowl immediately appeared in his mind. Dr. Deng suddenly had a strange thought. Could it be that these two were also affected by the salt-free powder? Dr. Deng checked their pulse and asked for their diagnosis. Finally, he said, the two young ladies seem to have been infected with some kind of poisonous grass. However, I am not knowledgeable enough to see what kind of poison they have been infected with. However, the symptoms of the two young ladies are similar to Miss Yun's symptoms. I am really unsure. Why don't you find someone else? When Fan Sushue heard Dr. Deng say that her symptoms were similar to Yun Chujius, she immediately said ferociously, impossible. You quack. How could I be afflicted with salt-free powder? You must have seen wrongly. Dr. Deng was at a loss. Salt-free powder? What salt-free powder? Yi Xinhuan was on the verge of breaking down. She could not care less about whether she would be exposed or not. She stared at Dr. Deng and asked, "Are Sushue's symptoms really the same as that little bastard's?" "Are you sure?" Dr. Deng sighed. "This old man only said that they are similar, but I'm not sure that they are the same. You'd better find someone else. Don't delay the two young ladies' condition. Mother, he can't even diagnose the salt-free powder. He's just a quack. Don't listen to his nonsense. Hurry up and kill him." "Get me another doctor," Fan Sushue said viciously. Yi Xinhuan was just about to speak when Old Master Yi said in a low voice, "Shut up. Yi Fu, take these servants away." Housekeeper Fu knew that Old Master Yi had something to say, so he untied those servants and took them away. Although Yi Xinhuan and Fan Sushue didn't take Old Master Yi seriously, they were intimidated by his majesty and didn't clamor anymore. Old Master Yi snorted coldly, "Xinhuan, little Jiu's appearance was destroyed by you. It was destroyed with salt-free powder." Yi Xinhuan said exasperatedly, "Grandfather, right now, you should be concerned about Sukshu's appearance, right? Why are you talking about that bastard?" "That's right, I got someone to add salt-free powder into her medicinal soup. Could it be that you want to settle the score later?" Old Master Yi was so angry that he gritted his teeth and said, "Good, good. Xinhuan, she's just a little girl. What does it get in the way of you? You actually made such a vicious move." Sigh. "All right, let's not talk about this matter first. Dr. Deng, tell the truth. Did Su Shui and Bingying also get hit by salt-free powder?" Dr. Deng said, It's best to let the two young ladies clean their hands. I'll test it out." Yi Xinhuan and Fan Sushue were stunned. Did this old thing really know about salt-free powder? After Fan Sushue and Yi Bingying washed their hands with water, Dr. Deng took out a stalk of purple blood forsythia and placed it in the pot. Everyone saw that the originally purple flower had turned dark blue. Dr. Deng sighed. This purple blood forsythia will only turn dark blue after encountering salt-free powder. It seems that the two ladies have indeed been poisoned by salt-free powder. No. No. You're talking nonsense. You're talking nonsense. I didn't go to Xiaohua Garden, how could I have been poisoned by the salt-free powder? Fan Sushue roared like a mad woman. Yi Bingying's eyes went blank. She understood what being poisoned by the salt-free powder meant. It meant that her appearance could never be restored. Her life was over. Yi Xinhuan stared at Dr. Deng with a ferocious expression. "Since you can find out about the salt-free powder, why did you tell sister-in-law that the little bastard was poisoned by poisonous grass? Did you poison Sushue?" Chapter 24-27 Dogs Bite Dogs. Old Master Yi was so angry that he kicked the stool over. You shut up. Wasn't Dr. Deng trying to save face for you and the Yi family? Is he going to go around the city and make a racket that you, his aunt, poisoned his niece? Moreover, Dr. Deng had not even met Su Shui, how could he have poisoned her? Can't you grow a brain? Old Master Yi was so furious that he couldn't care less whether Yi Xinhuan was a member of the Fan family or not. Although Yi Xinhuan was very inflated now, she used to be very afraid of Old Master Yi. After being yelled at by Old Master Yi, she immediately restrained herself a little. She thought carefully. What Old Master Yi said made sense. This Dr. Deng had never seen Su Shui before. How could he have poisoned her? Besides, there was no motive or opportunity to poison her. Lu Shi was unable to interrupt, only then did she say, "Then it seems that it's really the problem of those spirit bees." But how could those spirit bees have salt-free powder? Could it be that Xianwan lost your salt-free powder? And then it was taken away by the spirit bees as pollen. Everyone felt that what Lu Shi said made sense. Perhaps the spirit bees really had treated the salt-free powder as pollen and stained their claws. Then, after being soaked in dew, they smeared it on Fan Sushue and Yi Bingying's faces. Yi Xinhuan used her spiritual sense to check the storage ring. She did not lose it. She was suddenly shocked. She stared at Lu Shi viciously. "Sister-in-law, back then, I gave you a bag of salt-free powder. Could it be that you lost the rest of the salt-free powder? Then, the spirit bees treated it as pollen." Lu Shi could not care less about the fact that the matter had been exposed. She hurriedly denied, "Back then, I gave the entire bag of medicinal powder to Kai Dai. She told me that she had already gotten someone to put it into the medicinal soup. There was not a single bit left." "Then what about the paper that was wrapped with the medicinal powder?" Yi Xinhuan pressed. "This, I didn't ask about this in detail. Kai Dai is outside. Let her come in and ask." Lu Shi's heart was beating fast. Could it be that the paper wrapped with the medicinal powder wasn't properly handled and the spiritual bee had been used as pollen? If that was the case, not only would she harm her own daughter, the Fan family would probably not spare her. Yi Zhihui might even divorce her. The more Lu Shi thought about it, the more frightened she became. Her body could not help but tremble. Not long after, Kai Dai was brought in. Lu Shi gritted her teeth and asked, "Kai Dai, let me ask you. Did you ask someone to put all the medicinal powder I gave you into the medicinal soup? Is there any left?" Kai Dai knelt on the ground and said, "Yes, all of it was put into the medicinal soup. I watched Granny Ding put it in. There wasn't any left." Yi Xinhuan pushed Lu Shi away and stared at Kai Dai. "What about the paper wrapped in the medicinal powder?" Burn it." Kai Dai said while trembling. She knew that if the master was fine, she probably wouldn't survive. However, Yi Xinhuan saw her trembling and decided that she was lying. She was guilty. "Nonsense. Did you just throw away that paper? Speak. You lowly servant." Yi Xinhuan kicked Kai Dai. Kai Dai spat out a mouthful of blood. Although she did not know what exactly happened, she knew that no matter what, she would not be able to escape death when she saw Fan Sushue and Yi Bingying's miserable state. She looked at Lu Shi for help. When she saw Lu Shi's eyes, her heart sank to the bottom. Lu Shi's eyes were very obvious, asking her to commit suicide to prove her innocence. Kai Dai felt bitter in her heart. If she had known it would be like this, she would have found a catalyst to not go on that mission. It was too late to say anything now. It seemed that good and evil would eventually be repaid. This was her retribution. When Kai Dai thought of this, she smiled bitterly. "Aunt, I really burned that piece of paper. Since you don't believe me, then I can only prove my innocence by dying." Saying this, Kai Dai killed herself with the hairpin on her head. Chapter 24-28 Antidote. In fact, when Kai Dai pulled out her hairpin and committed suicide, old Master Yi could have stopped her, but he did not. Because he felt that there must be a scapegoat for this matter. It was best to let this servant take the blame. Seeing Kai Dai die, Yi Xinhuan was so angry that she kicked Kai Dai's corpse a few more times. She angrily said to Lu Shi, "Sister-in-law, she is your person, so you can't get away with this matter." Lu Shi's eyes were red as she said, "Xinhuan, your words are simply stabbing my heart. Kai Dai had already declared her intention with her death, so that paper must have been burned. Moreover, my Bingying's face was also disfigured. Am I crazy? Even my own daughter was harmed." Fan Sushue stomped her feet and said, "Mother, let's talk about the accounts later. What about my face? I don't want to be disfigured. I don't want to become an ugly monster." Although Yi Bingying wasn't as hysterical as Fan Sushue, she couldn't even stand properly. She leaned on Lu Shi's body and barely managed not to collapse. Yi Xinhuan knew that there was no antidote to the salt-free powder. But she still asked Dr. Deng in desperation, since you know about the salt-free powder, can you also detoxify it? As long as you can cure Sushue's face, he'll agree to any condition you propose. Fan Sushue added viciously, if you can't cure my face, he'll kill you. Not only will I kill you, but he'll also kill all of your family members. Dr. Deng's resentment could be imagined. A doctor's heart was like a parent's. When he saw Fan Sushue and Yi Bingying's beautiful faces being ruined, he planned to carefully study Yun Chujia's words, perhaps he could really develop an antidote to the salt-free powder. He did not expect Fan Sushue to be so vicious. It would be better if such a person died. Old Master Yi shook his head repeatedly. As the direct daughter of a super-aristocratic family, Fan Sukshu's upbringing was really too poor. Her personality was the same as her mother's, but he did not know if she was as lucky as her mother. Old Master Yi naturally would not sit idly by. He could only appease Dr. Deng and say, Dr. Deng, Sukshu's appearance was also destroyed, so her words are somewhat incoherent. You don't have to take it to heart. It's just that a few days ago, you told me that you had some progress on the antidote for the salt-free powder. I wonder if there has been any progress. Old Master Yi, researching the antidote is not something that can be done in a day. Moreover, this old man does not have much confidence. After all, the family that has the salt-free powder has not been able to develop the antidote for thousands of years. The Fan family's connections are quite extensive. Why don't we get the Fan family to invite another divine doctor to help young Miss Fan take a look? Perhaps there might be other conclusions, Dr. Deng said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. He had already thought things through. Life and death depended on fate and wealth. If the Fan family really wanted to make things difficult for him, there was nothing he could do. Moreover, the Fan family might not really do anything to him just because of a young miss whose appearance had been ruined. The super-aristocratic families still cherished their feathers. Most importantly, he did not think that the Fan family would kill him because they still needed him to develop the antidote for the salt-free powder. Yi Xinhuan was about to say something when Old Master Yi glared at her. He said to Dr. Deng, Dr. Deng, what you said makes sense. We will immediately send a message to the Fan family and ask them to think of a way. However, since you already have a lead on the antidote for the salt-free powder, then the greatest hope is still on you. If there's anything you need, feel free to ask. As long as the Yi family can do it, we'll do our best. Chapter 24-29 Disappointment. Dr. Deng saw how courteous Old Master Yi was. He could only nod and say, Old Master Yi is too courteous. This old man is a doctor, so I naturally have to do my best to treat the patient. When this old man returns, I will do my best to develop an antidote for the salt-free powder. Old Master Yi nodded and asked housekeeper Fu to send Dr. Deng back. He also gave him a generous consultation fee. Old Master Yi glanced at the few people in the room and sighed in disappointment. There was no need to mention Yi Xinhuan and her mother. The one who disappointed and pained him the most was Yi Bingying. He originally thought that she was the hope of this generation of the Yi family, but he did not expect her heart to be so vicious. He did not object to competition between his peers. Even if he used some small tricks, he did not care. After all, the fittest survived. Only competition could choose the strongest. However, Yi Bingying was not competing or suppressing. She was taking someone's life. Even if such a person really had a future, she would not consider the interests of the family. She would even sacrifice the interests of the family to pave the way for herself. Old Master Yi's gaze seemed to have substance. The oppression made everyone in the room tremble in fear. Even the most arrogant Fan Sushue was a little afraid to speak. Xinhuan, what do you plan to tell the Fan family about today's matter? Old Master Yi stared at Yi Xinhuan and asked. Yi Xinhuan was a little muddled by the question. Grandfather, what else can I say? Naturally, they'll tell the truth. I still want my husband to help search for the godly doctor. Old Master Yi slammed the table. Extremely muddle-headed. The Fan family is currently in a terrible state. What do you think will happen after you tell these terrible things? If things go wrong, even Mingchuan will be implicated by you. Furthermore, why do you have salt-free powder? Is it used in the past to do some shady and private things? If you tell them, what will Fan Jichuan think? Yi Xinwen's face turned pale. She did not really care about what old Master Yi said earlier, but the latter sentence, that's right. If this matter was told to Fan Jichuan, he might find an excuse to divorce her. Fan Sushue said unhappily at the side, then what should I do? Don't tell the Fan family that my face is disfigured. There is no antidote for salt-free powder. Do you think it will be useful even if you tell the Fan family? Old Master Yi was extremely displeased with Fan Sushue. If it weren't for this troublemaker, Little Nine and Bingying wouldn't have been disfigured. Yi Xinwan was completely flustered. Grandfather, then what should we do? You must save my Sushue. If her face is ruined, her life will be over. Old Master Yi snorted coldly. If Sukshu's face is ruined, her life will be over. Why didn't you think of this when you secretly harmed Little Nine? Yi Xinwan wanted to argue a bit, but now she had to beg Old Master Yi, so she could only endure it. How about this, Xinwan, you secretly inform Mingchuan about this matter and let him think of a way to help you find a famous doctor. I will also send people to keep an eye on Dr. Deng's side. Since he already has a clue about the antidote, perhaps he will really develop it, Old Master Yi said. Yi Xinwan nodded repeatedly. Old Master Yi was right. It would be good to secretly tell Mingchuan about this matter. He handled things steadily and would definitely have a way. Great-grandfather Yi sighed and left with a flick of his sleeve. The atmosphere in the room instantly froze. Yi Xinwan looked at Lu Shi viciously. Sister-in-law, if Su Shue's face can be cured, they'll pretend that this matter never happened. If her face can't be cured, I won't be done with you. Not only you, the Lu family can forget about it. Chapter 24:30 The imp turned into the devil. Yi Bingying couldn't take it anymore. Aunt, how can you blame my mother for this? If it wasn't for Su Shue's suggestion to harm Yin Chujiu, would this have happened? If you want to blame someone, blame Su Shue. You bitch, you actually have the nerve to blame me. If it wasn't for you telling me how good-looking that bitch was, would I have proposed to disfigure her? If you hadn't insisted on dragging me to the back garden, would I have been harmed by those spirit bees? You bitch, I'll kill you right now. Fan Sushue pounced on Yi Bingying ferociously. Yi Bingying didn't care about anything else at the moment. She immediately started fighting with Fan Sushue. Yi Xinwan and Lu Shi quickly stopped the fight, but the two of them were petty and petty. In the end, the two of them also started fighting. Although the servants outside heard the movements in the room, no one went in to stop the fight. They were not stupid. If they went in, they would only be blamed. They might even be hurt by accident. Especially the servants in the guest house. They were extremely dissatisfied with Yi Xinwan. They beat them to death without asking any questions. They would only go in to stop the fight unless they were stupid. In the end, it was only after Gushi arrived that both sides stopped fighting. Although Ji Shi had wanted to come over long ago, she knew that Old Master Yi was here, so she did not dare to come over. When she heard that Old Master Yi had left, she rushed over. Gushi scolded Lu Shi and Yi Xinwan and comforted them a few more words before this farce came to an end temporarily. What everyone did not know was that there was a bystander on the roof of Xiaohua Garden who was watching the show with great interest. Xiaohua Garden and the guest house were not too far away from each other. In addition, it was late at night and the commotion in the guest house was so loud that even though they couldn't hear it clearly, they could still roughly hear it. Yun Chuzhou snickered as she chewed on the spirit fruit. A dog biting a dog and a mouthful of fur. Did she want to disfigure her little fairy Joe? Did she get her retribution now? She couldn't count on the heavens for this retribution. Only by doing it herself would she have enough food and clothing. Only by doing it herself would she be satisfied. The 6 servants of Xiaohua Garden stood in the courtyard, looking at a certain Jiu on the roof in a daze. When they heard the commotion from the guest house, for some reason, they felt that the commotion there had something to do with the devil on the roof. However, this devil had never left Xiaohua Garden. How could it be her? It must be an illusion. Yes, an illusion. The 6 servants recalled Yun Chuzhou saying that she was the favored child of Tian Dao. They thought about it carefully and realized that it was true. The Yi mother and daughter wanted to harm her, but the little demon was completely fine. However, they themselves suffered retribution. Didn't this prove that the little demon was really the favored child of Tian Dao? After the 6 servants figured this out, they no longer dared to betray Yun Chuzhou. They already had a consensus in their hearts, and that was that whoever went against the little demon would be courting death. Yun Chuzhou saw that there was nothing more to see over there, so she jumped off the roof. This guy glanced at the 6 servants and said with a smile that was not a smile, "Dog against dog, isn't it fun? Tell me, why do I suddenly think of that wind-blade rabbit?" The 6 servants could not help but shiver. Before they could say anything, Yun Chuzhou had already entered the house. The 6 of them looked at each other. Could it really be her? How was this possible? How did she do it? The 6 of them felt a chill on their backs. In their hearts, Yun Chuzhou had turned from a little devil to a big devil. Now, even if someone were to put a knife to their necks, they would not dare to have any bad thoughts towards Yun Chuzhou. Chapter 24:31 Sweet jujubes are so sweet. Yun Chuzhou had a good night's sleep, but many people in the Yi family could not fall asleep. The one who was most anxious was the old Master Yi. After he returned, he repeatedly thought about today's matter and felt that it was really unbelievable. Could it really be that there was something wrong with the piece of paper that wrapped up the salt-free powder? He had to prepare for the worst. If Fan Sukshu's face could not be cured completely, what would the Fan family do? Since the root of the matter was Yi Xinhuan, the Fan family would not really do anything to the Yi family. However, it was inevitable that Yi Xinhuan would fall out of favor. Fortunately, Fan Mingchuan was highly regarded by the head of the Fan family. Otherwise, they would really lose the whole game. Originally, he had planned to let Yi Bingying apply for the Hunyuan sect. Now, it seemed that it was also a failure. Little Nine, who was originally the favorite of Tian Dao, also had a bleak future. Could it be that the Yi family was finished just like that? Although the remaining Yi Wenhong was a qualified successor, regardless of whether it was in terms of talent or skill, he was not outstanding enough. It was already not bad if he could hold on to his achievements. Yi Bingyi's talent was also average and could not be counted on at all. Old Master Yi lay on the bed with his clothes closed. He repeatedly recalled the recent events and suddenly sat up. He felt that something was not right. What exactly was wrong? Little Jill. According to that little girl's character, if she was really disfigured by Xian and the others, why would she be so quiet? She was fearless. If she was really disfigured, she would definitely drag Xian and the others down with her. How could she be so quiet in Xiaohua Garden? The more old Master Yi thought about it, the more suspicious he felt. When he recalled Dr. Deng's words and attitude, he felt that there was something wrong. Old Master Yi endured until dawn with great difficulty. He immediately brought housekeeper Fu to Xiaohua Garden. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou was still sound asleep. This fellow was in a dream. Cough cough. He had bullied Di Biming for a long time and was enjoying himself immensely. Therefore, this fellow was awakened by the knocking on the door. He was filled with anger and roared angrily, "What are you knocking on? What are you doing here so early in the morning?" Housekeeper Fu, who was outside the courtyard door, shrunk his neck. This young miss was so angry when she woke up. However, it was probably because her face was disfigured that she was so angry. Old Master Yi took a deep breath and said in a deep voice, "Little ninth girl, it's me." Yun Chujio was stunned. Old fox. Could it be that he found something suspicious? However, it was also true. So many days had passed. In addition to last night's incident, if he still didn't find out, he wouldn't be worthy of being the head of the Yi family. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio said in a crisp voice, "So it's great-grandfather. Please wait a moment, I haven't woken up yet." The corner of housekeeper Fu's eyes twitched violently outside the door. His attitude had changed so quickly. However, the only one who could say that she had not woken up so confidently was probably the weirdo, Miss Cousin. After Yun Chujio left the house, the 6 servants were already waiting at the door, trembling in fear. Yun Chujio glanced at them and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, I'm here for you. Everything will be fine." The 6 servants were so touched that they almost cried. The sweet date that they gave after the slap was so sweet that it almost touched their hearts. Sob, they were so touched. It turned out that the little devil had a kind side to her. She actually comforted them and even said that she was there for everything. It was simply too heartwarming, wasn't it? After Yun Chujio removed the door latch, she suddenly took a dozen steps back and said faintly, "Great-grandfather, if there's anything you want to say, you should just stand there and say it. Little Gio is really afraid of infecting you." Sigh, I can't help it. The world is so realistic. Ever since I got sick, my Xiaohua garden has been so cold that I don't even dare to let the wind in. I'm afraid of infecting. Chapter 2432 was the explanation. When old Master Yi heard Yun Chujio's words, his old face turned red. How could he not know that Yun Chujio was complaining about him? Housekeeper Fu quickly explained, "Young miss, old master has been really busy recently. In fact, old master has been sending servants to secretly pay attention to the situation in Xiaohua Garden." Yun Chujio stopped when she saw the good news. She said with a faint smile, "Housekeeper Fu, I don't mean anything else. I'm really just afraid of infecting my great-grandfather. After all, if I were to be infected with this disease, my face would be disfigured." Old Master Yi glared at Yun Chujio. "You little girl, don't talk nonsense with me. Dr. Deng has already told me that you were infected with salt-free powder, not some infectious disease." Yun Chujio looked at Housekeeper Fu and said with a smile, "Housekeeper Fu, please help to keep an eye out for me. I think great-grandfather wants to talk to me about something good." The corner of Housekeeper Fu's mouth twitched. "Don't worry, Miss Cousin. There are already guards around Xiaohua Garden. There won't be any random people coming near." Yun Chujio sneered in her heart. Now they knew to send guards to guard. Where were they when Yi Xinhuan poisoned them? Humans could only rely on themselves. Old Master Yi did not enter the house. He directly sat down on the stone bench in the courtyard. After the 6 servants saluted, they stood far away, afraid that Old Master Yi would see that they were not poisoned. Old Master Yi naturally would not pay attention to these servants. He stared into Yun Chujio's eyes and said, "Little Jiu, take off your veil. I'll take a look at your injuries." Yun Chujio knew that even if she did not want to take it off, Old Master Yi would force her to take off her veil, so she generously took off her veil. Housekeeper Fu, who was standing at the side, was still unable to bear with it. This girl loved her looks the most. Her cousin's looks were ruined, and Old Master Yi even asked her to take off the veil. It was estimated that this cousin would cry loudly in a while. However, when Housekeeper Fu saw Yun Chujio take off the veil, his mouth immediately grew wide. Heavens, this how could her face be undamaged? Wasn't she poisoned? Wasn't her face disfigured? Old Master Yi was still relatively calm because he already had a guess in his heart. He sighed and said, "Little Jiu, don't you have anything to explain?" Yun Chujio took out a large basin from her storage ring. She pointed at the wind-blade rabbit's corpse, which had been corroded until only its bones were left, and said, "Great-grandfather, this is the explanation." Yun Chujia's eyes reddened after she finished speaking, and a look of grief and indignation appeared on her face. Great-grandfather Yes' old face reddened once again after being rebuked. That's right, what did he ask just now? What did he mean by an explanation? Could it be that he wanted to see Yun Chujio disfigured? Little Jiu, great-grandfather didn't mean that. I just feel that it's a little strange. What on earth is going on? The little bit of guilt in great-grandfather Yes' heart was instantly magnified countless times by Yun Chujia's ruckus. He felt that he was simply an unpardonable person. Great-grandfather, you should already know what on earth is going on, right? I also don't know who in this Yi residence wants to harm me, to actually put salt-free powder in the medicinal soup. If it wasn't for my cleverness, I'm afraid I would have really become a salt-free woman. What do you think I can do? Don't tell me that I can go to you and shout that someone wants to harm me. Would you believe me? Then I had to pretend that I was poisoned, so that at least the people behind the scenes wouldn't try to harm me again. I did it to protect myself, because I'm stupid and weak. Chapter 2433 was retribution. Whether it was the 6 servants or housekeeper Fu, they all had an expression of fucking shit. Can't you fucking pretend to be dead? Let's not talk about whether you're weak or not. Are you stupid? If you're stupid, there won't be any smart people in this world. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning if you say something that goes against your heart? The corners of Old Master Yes' eyes twitched. He had yet to speak. He heard Yun Chujio continue, "Great-grandfather, who is it that wants to harm me? Hurry up and tell me. Otherwise, I won't be able to eat or sleep well all day long. I'm going to be scared to death." Housekeeper Fu stole a glance at Yun Chujio's rosy face. It seemed that the matter of lying and being struck by lightning was not very accurate. Otherwise, why didn't this person get struck by lightning for lying so many times? Old Master Yi did not hide anything and told her what he knew. Then, he stared at Yun Chujio's expression and asked, "Little Jiu, how do you think that Su Shui and Bingying girl were also struck by the salt-free powder?" The corners of Yun Chujio's lips curled up. "Great-grandfather, have you heard of these few words? Good and evil will always be rewarded. The heavenly Tao is good for reincarnation. If you don't believe me, look up, who will the heavens spare? They have suffered retribution. I am the favored child of the Tian Tao. They harmed me, so they will naturally suffer retribution." Old Master Yi was almost suffocated by the rebuke, but he could not say anything. He could only take a deep breath and ask, "You didn't do this?" Yun Chujio's face was full of shock and innocence. "Great-grandfather, I have never left Xiaohua Garden. Besides, how could I possibly poison them with my weak kung fu? Could they have poisoned themselves and then framed me? This is too shameless." The people in the courtyard were speechless. They knew that there was no antidote to the salt-free powder, but Fan Sushue and Yi Bingying still poisoned themselves. Were their brains fried? Old Master Yi felt that he shouldn't have come today. It was purely because he was causing trouble for himself. This little girl's words could choke people to death. "Great-grandfather, I wonder what aunt and great-aunt guessed was the cause of the poisoning." The reason why Yun Chujio asked this was because she wanted to probe the bottom line. If they did not find the spirit bees, then she could do the same thing again in the future. If they found it, then forget it. They speculated that the paper wrapped in salt-free powder was blown into the backyard by the wind, and then the spirit bees treated the salt-free powder as pollen. After they got it on their claws, it was stained with dew. Then, it was an extremely coincidental coincidence that the dew got onto Bing Ying and Su Shui's faces. Old Master Yi felt that this was too much of a coincidence. However, other than this explanation, there did not seem to be any other explanation. No matter how capable little Jiu was, it was impossible for her to command the spirit bees. Moreover, she did not have the salt-free powder. Oh my God! It's actually such a coincidence. TSK, such a coincidental thing can happen. Looks like they really suffered retribution. Yun Chuzhou said gloatingly. She was secretly happy in her heart. These people were quite good at imagining things. Although old Master Yi felt that Yun Chujia's gloating look was a little annoying, he could not say anything. After all, Yi Xinhuan and the others had harmed others first. Old Master Yi coughed. Only then did Yun Chuzhou restrain herself. Otherwise, she would be dancing with joy. Little Jiu girl, how do you plan to end this? If your aunt finds out that you are not disfigured, I'm afraid she will not let this matter rest. Old Master Yi felt that Yun Chuzhou definitely had a backup plan. Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. Isn't there still you? Will you just watch as my aunt strangles me to death? Old Master Yi couldn't help but feel a little embarrassed and angry. Although he was a little guilty, being ridiculed by a junior over and over again made his old face feel a little embarrassed. Chapter 24-34. She was not sick. Just as old Master Yi was about to flare up, he heard Yun Chuzhou say, "Sai, I also know that you're in trouble. After all, you're the head of the Yi family. There are many things that you can't help. I understand all of them. Actually, I feel that Dr. Deng might be able to develop an antidote for salt-free powder. What if he can't develop it? Then I can only wear a veil and hide far away from him in the future. When that time comes, I'll enter a super sect like the primordial chaos sect. No matter how long the Fan family's hands are, they can't do anything to me." Even though old Master Yi's anger had dissipated a little, he still said unhappily, "Is the primordial chaos sect something that you can enter just because you want to? Even though your breakthrough speed isn't bad, the 6th level of the spiritual profound is still too weak. Bingying is at the 3rd level of the spiritual void tier, and she can only barely enter the outer sect. Everything depends on man. Who knows, she might accidentally enter. Besides, perhaps Dr. Deng will be able to develop an antidote for the salt-free powder. At that time, won't everyone be happy?" Yun Chuzhou said indifferently. Old Master Yi felt his head buzzing. He felt that if he continued to tangle with this little girl, he would definitely be angered to the point of vomiting blood. However, he could not find any fault with her. Yun Chuzhou obviously knew that old Master Yi was being scolded badly. However, she was never a steamed bun who swallowed her anger. Could it be that she was poisoned by someone and was still grateful? She was not sick. Great-grandfather Yi saw that he could not get anything out of her, so he could only say, "You stay in Xiaohua Garden obediently. I will send someone to guard the courtyard to prevent others from coming in, so that you won't be exposed." "Thank you, great-grandfather. Don't worry, a good person will have his blessings. Dr. Deng will definitely develop a salt-free antidote," Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. Great-grandfather Yi gave a perfunctory reply and left with housekeeper Fu. Not long after old Master Yi left, Dr. Deng arrived. Dr. Deng was about to speak when Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, "Old miracle doctor, let's go to the spirit peach forest over there and talk. It's quieter there." Dr. Deng understood that he was afraid that the walls would have ears, so he nodded and the two of them arrived at the spirit peach forest. Dr. Deng then said, "Miss Yun, do you know that Miss Fan and Miss Yi were both poisoned by salt-free powder?" Yun Chuzhou nodded. "I heard from great-grandfather. Old Master Yi also knows that you weren't disfigured?" Dr. Deng asked in surprise. Yun Chuzhou curled the corners of her lips. "Well, it was only a matter of time, so I told him." TSK, old miracle doctor, do you think this is karma? They wanted to poison me. I'm fine, but they were poisoned themselves. How interesting. Dr. Deng felt that Yun Chujia's words had a hidden meaning, but he couldn't figure out what it meant. He remembered the meaning and quickly took out a wooden box from his storage ring. Miss Yun, the spirit herbs in this are too valuable. You should take it back. I'll take the other wooden box. Dr. Deng had also unintentionally opened the wooden box that Yun Chujio had given him last night. He opened one of the boxes and saw that there were a few earth-grade and mystic-grade spirit herbs in it, so he didn't pay too much attention to it. But when he opened the other box, he was stunned. Inside was actually a low-grade heaven-grade purple dragon vine. This was too valuable. That was why Dr. Deng had rushed over so early in the morning. Seeing that Dr. Deng insisted on returning it, Yun Chujio didn't say much. She saw that the wooden box was kept. After all, the formula for the salt-free powder was much more valuable than this spirit herb. Chapter 2435 was not a little white rabbit at all. Old miracle doctor, I wonder if there are any clues about the antidote to the salt-free powder. Yun Chujio sat on the stone bench and asked with a smile. Dr. Deng sighed. How could it be so easy? What you said the other day inspired me. I also think that the purple blood forsythia might really be the antidote to the salt-free powder. But I have tried many times and failed without exception. It seems that the salt-free powder really is unsolvable. Old miracle doctor, that may not be the case. I do have an idea that might be helpful to you. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said mysteriously. Oh. What idea? Deng Zhongteng suddenly stood up from the stool. He was thinking about the antidote to the salt-free powder during the day and night. He was almost possessed by the devil. Don't get excited yet. If you think that my idea will be helpful to you, you have to agree to one condition of mine. What condition? That is, after you successfully develop the antidote, you have to find a reason to scam the Yi and Fan families for a sum of at least 100 million high-grade spirit stones. At that time, we will split it 50-50. However, don't worry, you just have to do as I say. The Fan and Yi families will not find trouble with you in the future. Dr. Deng's face was full of confusion. He felt that his brain was not enough. What did he mean? She wanted him to scam the Yi family and Fan family for 1 to 100 million high-grade spirit stones. The Yi family and Fan family were not mentally ill. Why would they let him scam so many spirit stones? Moreover, why did she have to give half of it to her? Old miracle doctor, my idea will definitely help you develop the antidote for the salt-free powder. Are you going to do this deal or not? If you can't develop the antidote for the salt-free powder, Yi Xinhuan will not let it go. You have to think carefully. Yun Chujio said with a smile. Dr. Deng was so angry that he was twitching. At this moment, he finally understood that the person in front of him was not some weak little white rabbit. This was a fucking fox. And it was the same kind of fox with 9 tails behind it. Dr. Deng really wanted to turn around and leave, but his heart was scratched by Yun Chujia's thoughts. He struggled in his heart for a long time, then, he gritted his teeth and said, think about the reason for scamming money. You have to guarantee the safety of me and the medicine hall. Yun Chujio snapped her fingers. Deal. Old miracle doctor, do you feel that you have been deceived by me? Sigh. I was forced by the situation. You have seen it yourself. Even my biological aunt and my biological aunt wanted to ruin my appearance. Can I not be careful? Please forgive me if I have offended you in any way. Yun Chujio was very shrewd. Seeing that Dr. Deng was a little angry, she quickly comforted him. Dr. Deng was now on the boat of thieves. Even if he was a little dissatisfied, he could only accept it. Now can you tell me what you think? Dr. Deng said unhappily. Although most spirit herbs are different from the secular world's herbs that need to be processed before they can be used as medicine, there are very few that need to be processed before they can be used. Could the purple blood forsythia be one of them? Dr. Deng was stunned for a moment before he slapped his thigh. What you said makes sense. Why didn't I think of that? I'll go back and give it a try. When Dr. Deng turned around and was about to leave, Yun Chujio said softly, "Old miracle doctor, the wooden box that I gave you was not given to you casually." Dr. Deng turned around and asked again, but Yun Chujio only smiled and did not say anything. Dr. Deng was so angry that he directly flung his sleeves and left. Yun Chujio looked at Dr. Deng's back and couldn't help but laugh. It was more interesting to leave some suspense. If she told him everything, he wouldn't have any sense of accomplishment. Yun Chujio jumped onto the hammock. Just as she was about to take out her notebook to read for a while, she felt the voice transmission talisman in her storage ring tremble. Chapter 24:36 Her gigolo had arrived. Yun Chujio used her divine sense to take a look. It was Di Biming's voice transmission talisman. "Little Jiu, I'll be able to reach Yi City tonight. Tell me the location of Xiaohua Garden and I'll meet you there." Di Biming's voice transmission talisman was as simple and clear as ever. Yun Chujio almost fell off the hammock. Why did this gigolo come so suddenly? Was he planning to give her a surprise? Yun Chujio described the location of Xiaohua Garden to Di Biming. She was not worried about Di Biming's safety. He could smash the Yi residence's door, so he was naturally not afraid of the guards of the Yi residence finding out. Yun Chujio put down the voice transmission talisman and became a little distracted. This guy cursed her in her heart. The more she lived, the more useless she became. She was not so nervous in the past. Why was she nervous now? This guy remembered the dream he had last night, and his face turned red. Then, this guy remembered the strange grass in his dantian. Guai Chao, who hadn't been scolded for a long time, was scolded again. Guai Chao knew that every time he was scolded, it was that big demon coming. He felt that his life was really tough. It wasn't easy for him to find a heavenly thunder spirit root, but he didn't expect to meet a pervert. Not only that, she was even in the eyes of that big demon. There was no way for him to survive. The 6 servants of Xiaohua Garden felt that the little demon in their eyes was somewhat abnormal. Well, this guy had never been normal before. But today, it looked even more abnormal. It sat in the courtyard and giggled foolishly for no reason. Sometimes, it would even cover its face with a look of embarrassment. Could it be that Dr. Deng had drugged her? Yun Chujio wished that the sky would turn dark soon. It was not easy for her to stay up until night. She took out 6 pills and handed them to the servants. "Take these pills. They are very nutritious." The 6 servants were so angry that they almost fainted. They had never heard that sleeping pills could be very nutritious. However, they did not dare to disobey her. They swallowed the pills in their hands one after another and returned to the servants' room with difficulty. Yun Chujio checked them and saw that they had really fainted. Only then did she return to her bedroom and wait for Di Biming happily. However, it was already midnight and Di Biming still did not come. Yun Chujio frowned and was about to take out the voice transmission talisman to send a message to Di Biming when the door was pushed open and Di Biming walked in. Yun Chujio immediately threw herself into Di Biming's arms and clung on to Di Biming like a koala. She said angrily, "Didn't you say that you would come at 11 a.m.? Why did you come so late?" Di Biming grunted and said in a low voice, "I was delayed on the way." Yun Chujio was filled with the joy of meeting Di Biming. She did not notice Di Biming's grunt. She pouted and said, "Prince Charming, why did you come to see me all of a sudden this time? Do you want me to be heartbroken and unable to extricate myself?" Di Biming did not say anything because he used his actions to express how much he missed her. After the passionate kiss, Yun Chujio pounded on Di Baiming's chest. She said coquettishly, "HMPH. You pervert. When I first saw you, I knew that you were a coquettish person. On the surface, you looked very stoic and cold, but in reality, you are a big pervert." Hiss. Di Baiming could not help but moan. Only then did Yun Chujio realize that something was wrong. With the help of the moonlight, she saw that there were red blood stains on Di Baiming's white clothes. "You're injured. You idiot. Why didn't you tell me you were injured?" Yun Chujio felt both sorry and guilty. If she knew that he was injured, she would not have tormented him so much. Chapter 24:37. She felt that she was very shameless. Di Baiming touched her hair. "It's alright, it's just a small injury." Yun Chujio glared at him. "Stop talking nonsense, lie on the bed for me." Di Baiming's ears turned red. He mumbled, "Little Chiu, although my body is fine, but Guai Chao." Seeing this, Yun Chujio directly pushed Di Baiming onto the bed, and then started to undress him. Di Baiming was conflicted. On one hand, he felt that it was not a good time. After all, Yun Chujio had not come to Kueishui yet. On the other hand, he was looking forward to it. Even if they could not really have sex, cough cough. It was good to have a good time. When Di Baiming's mind was filled with thoughts, he heard Yun Chujio scolding him with a sobbing voice, "Are you a pig? Such a big wound. Don't you know how to apply medicine to bandage it?" After Yun Chujio removed Di Baiming's clothes, she saw that his chest was filled with wounds of all sizes. One of them was more than 3 inches long and was oozing blood. Only then did Di Baiming realize that his thoughts were wrong. He couldn't help but say awkwardly, "It's nothing. I'm already used to it. This is considered light." When Yun Chujio heard Di Baiming's words, she immediately cried even harder. Used to it? This was considered light? One could imagine how dangerous Di Baiming was usually. Only then did Di Baiming realize that he had let the cat out of the bag. He did not know how to comfort people. He just kept saying, "It's okay. My constitution is special. I will recover very quickly. Don't worry." Yun Chujio glared at him. She took out a pill to stop the bleeding and fed him 2 pills. She sprinkled them on the wound and helped him bandage it. This guy deliberately tied a bow on the white cloth. The corner of Di Baiming's eyes twitched, but he didn't say anything. Anyway, he was still wearing clothes outside, so no one could see him. "Prince Charming, I see that your wounds are not caused by spiritual attacks. It seems that there are claws of demonic beasts. Your enemies are not only humans but also demonic beasts." Yun Chujio asked in confusion. "Little Chiu, if the enemy I'm facing is not too strong, how could I bear to let you stay here alone? If I bring you with me, I really can't protect your safety." Di Baiming said seriously. Although he knew that Yun Chujio was an independent girl, he was afraid that she would hold a grudge against him. Yun Chujio smiled, "Prince Charming, I understand. Isn't there a saying? If the two of us were in love for a long time, we wouldn't be together day and night. The reason why we are separated now is to be together for a better and longer time. Besides, distance makes the heart grow fonder. The feeling of us having an affair is quite exciting." When Di Baiming heard the first few sentences, his face was full of relief. However, when he heard the last few sentences, the relief on his face turned into confusion. A certain Jiu was still beaming with joy as she said, "Prince Charming, do you also feel that it's quite exciting? Every time you come, you are always sneaking around. Don't you look like the poor scholar who secretly meets the young ladies of the big families in the storybook?" Di Baiming looked at her speechlessly. "Have you not been cultivating properly recently? Have you been sneaking around reading the storybook again?" A certain Jiu immediately wished she could take back everything she had said just now. she stammered, "I've been trapped in Xiaohua Garden for the past few days and watched it a few times. I promise, it's really just a few times. I just broke through in the previous stage, so I don't dare to cultivate too fast." The more she spoke, the quieter her voice became. The reason was naturally because she felt guilty, especially when she caught a glimpse of the bow on Di Baiming's chest. She felt that slacking off was an unpardonable and shameless act. Chapter 2438, Conscience Hurts a Little. Di Baiming did not reprimand her. Instead, he said, "It's okay to take a look occasionally. It's right to combine work and rest." Yun Chujia's eyes were wide open. Although Di Baiming did not object to her reading the script, he did not encourage her to do so. This time, he actually said that. Could it be that he had lost too much blood and was confused? Di Baiming could not help but laugh when he saw Yun Chujia's expression. He stroked her hair and said, "I'm afraid that your cultivation is too hard. It's good to relax once in a while." Yun Chujio felt a little pain in her conscience. Although she was still working hard now, this fellow had never been a good student. Moreover, although her physique was a little unlucky, she had to admit that her cultivation was much easier than others. She only needed to condense the thunder spiritual force that the three foodies spat out. A certain Jiu, who was feeling guilty, took the initiative to change the topic. "Oh right, Prince Charming, where is the little madman? Did he come back with you?" "No, he stayed there to keep an eye on the other party's movements. Let him train for a period of time and become less useless. Then, let him come back to protect you." "Hee, Prince Charming, I didn't dare to tell you in the voice transmission talisman. I'm rich. I'm rich." Yun Chujio thought of the matter of the Fan family's mine and said proudly to Di Baiming. Di Baiming couldn't help but laugh. "What are you rich in?" "Last time, after I left the heavenly pit of the divine axe, I didn't expect to be in the Fan family's territory." Yun Chujio told Di Baiming everything that happened, then she took out a small piece of spirit stone ore for Di Baiming to see. Although Di Baiming felt that Yun Chujia's action was a bit risky, but he felt that she had considered it carefully, so he didn't scold Yun Chujio and took the spirit stone ore to have a look. The quality of this spirit stone mine is not bad. After processing, it should be a high-grade spirit stone. However, you are not short of money anyway. Try not to let everyone process it so that you don't give yourself away, Di Baiming instructed. "I know about this, but you don't even know about it. I feel that I have done it secretly. I didn't expect that old man Huang from Tianluo City would actually suspect me. However, I beat around the bush and made him confused." Yun Chujio told him about Mayor Huang again, then said, "Prince Charming, I think that old man Huang is not simple. How could an ordinary city lord make the two principals of Xingtian Academy and Wustone Academy listen to him?" Di Baiming nodded. "Although I haven't found any malice toward you for the time being, it's better for you to stay away from him. It's fine. If he wants to harm me, I still have the help of the heavenly Dao Cliff. It's just a pity that the heavenly Dao Cliff can only be effective within a radius of 5,000 miles. Otherwise, I would really have a big killing weapon." Yun Chujio thought of the big kitchen knife when she mentioned the big killing weapon. She told Di Baiming about the strangeness of the big kitchen knife. Di Baiming's eyes lit up. "Little Jiu, I think that the big kitchen knife is very likely the Heaven Punisher divine axe that you've been looking for. It can cut through the stone egg made of shell fragments and even kill Shuemo. Other than the Heaven Punisher, there's no other spirit weapon that can do it. Moreover, those shell fragments that you said were lost were probably also devoured by the kitchen knife." Recalling the abnormality of the kitchen knife in the ancient sword tomb, we can basically determine that it should be the Heaven Punisher. It's just that for some unknown reason, it ended up in the Linghua sect's kitchen. Chapter 2439. This is an illness. It needs to be treated. Di Baiming could not help but sigh. Although little Jiu was not tolerated by the Tian Dao, her luck was surprisingly good at times. She conveniently took a large kitchen knife with a gap in it in the kitchen, and it was actually a divine weapon. This luck was really out of this world. Yun Chuzhou excitedly took out the large kitchen knife and looked at it more than 10 times, but she could not see the awesomeness of a divine weapon. She couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. Prince Charming, although what you said makes sense, no matter how I look at it, the big kitchen knife doesn't look like the Heaven Punisher divine axe. Maybe it really went through self-destruction, and the weapon spirit hasn't fully awakened yet. When the weapon spirit fully awakens, it will naturally return to its original appearance of the Heaven Punisher divine axe, Di Baiming guessed. Alright. To be honest, the kitchen knife has followed me for so many years. It has helped me cut firewood, chopped meat, and even extorted people for me. Even if it's not a divine weapon, I will always keep it. It's just like my partner, Yun Chuzhou said after putting away the kitchen knife. What Yun Chuzhou didn't know was that the kitchen knife that was put into her storage ring flashed with a red light, but it soon disappeared. When Di Baiming heard what Yun Chuzhou said, he couldn't help but laugh. If the large kitchen knife was really the Heaven Punisher's divine axe, he probably wouldn't want to wake up again when he thought about how he used it like a kitchen knife before because it was too embarrassing for the divine weapon. Di Baiming asked again why Yun Chuzhou hadn't returned to the Heaven Punisher Academy. Yun Chuzhou told him about how Yi Xinhuan had given her the salt-free powder. Di Baiming's face immediately darkened. Where is the guest house? I will go and kill them. And your uncle's family, I will help you kill them. I don't want you to be upset. Yun Chuzhou was speechless as she held down Di Baiming, who was about to get up. Although this kind of domineering CEO style was quite seductive, wanting to kill someone at the slightest disagreement was an illness that needed to be treated. Prince Charming, I can handle it. You don't have to help me. I am not being unreasonable. If I want to kill them, although it is not easy, I can still do it. I am not afraid of them, but the Fan family behind them. The Fan family is deeply rooted. If we really kill them, there will be too much trouble in the future. Therefore, let's not touch them for the time being. When we can really look down on the entire Immortal Essence continent, we will deal with them. Moreover, you don't know my character. I won't be at a disadvantage. If they punch me, I will chop off their hands. If they kick me, I will chop off their legs. Di Baiming snorted coldly. You're quite impressive. Aren't you still trapped in Xiaohua Garden? Forget it, since you have plans, well, do as you say. If you can't handle it yourself, I'll help you take care of them. Although the Fan family is a bit troublesome, if we find the right opportunity, we might be able to completely eradicate the Fan family. Yun Chuzhou nodded. The Fan family hasn't crossed my bottom line yet. Moreover, I've already collected half of the Spirit Stone mine in advance as compensation. It's not a big deal to let them run around for a few days. Oh right, little Jiu, you said that you met a Spirit Master Yen when you left the Fan family's mine. Di Baiming suddenly asked. Yes, he's Ziheng's grandfather. Is there a problem? Yun Chuzhou asked nervously. Could it be that she had done something wrong? Di Baiming smiled. I believe in your judgment. If you think it's harmless, there's naturally no problem. My seal hasn't been completely broken yet, but I have a vague feeling that I'll need a spirit master in the future. You help me find 2 at once. By then, I won't have to look around for people anymore. Chapter 2440 was taught well by me. A certain Jiu heard Di Baiming's words and immediately became extremely smug. That's right, I never do meaningless things. I'm called a prophet. Di Baiming looked at Yun Chuzhou's smug look and only curled his lips, not saying a word. Yun Chuzhou looked at the bow tie on Di Baiming's chest and could not help but smile. Humph, this dumb slut would not be so obedient in the past. It was better that I taught her well. The more he thought about it, the more he felt a sense of accomplishment. He used Di Biming's arm as a pillow and lay down on his side with a smile. Prince Charming, since there's a little lunatic watching over there, you should stay for a few more days this time. Anyway, few people come to my Xiaohua garden. Those servants have been taken care of by me, so I won't say anything. Anfeng's spiritual power is too low. If there's an emergency, he might not be able to handle it. Moreover, I've been going back and forth for many days. Yun Chuzhou pouted, and her small face instantly scrunched up. She was obviously very disappointed. However, it's not a big deal to stay for one more day. I'll leave in the morning the day after tomorrow. After saying that, Di Biming turned around and looked at Yun Chuzhou, his eyes full of ridicule. Only then did Yun Chuzhou react. It turned out that Di Biming had said those words on purpose. She was so angry that she bit Di Biming's shoulder. Di Biming grimaced in pain, but his heart was filled with sweetness. If he could be together with little Jiu, he would be happy even if he was bitten by her every day. The two of them seemed to have endless words to say. Cough, cough. In fact, it was a certain Jiu who kept boasting. A certain Jiu would occasionally chime in. The two of them did not sleep for a night. Of course, a certain Jiu went out halfway and gave each of the 6 servants a sleeping pill. In this way, the 6 servants would be lucky if they could wake up on the 3rd morning, let alone the next morning. A certain Jiu said with conviction, Aya, you guys have been on tenterhooks these past few days. You must not have rested well. This is a good opportunity to have a good sleep. If those servants heard what Yun Chuzhou said, they would probably faint from anger without her having to feed them medicine. The next morning, Yun Chuzhou felt a little sleepy after her excitement. She kept yawning. Di Biming said with heartache, you sleep for a while. I'll keep an eye on the outside. If anyone comes, I'll call you. Yun Chuzhou was really sleepy, so she lay on the bed and fell asleep. Di Biming was meditating in the outer room while keeping an eye on the situation outside. After about 2 hours, they heard a dispute outside. Miss Fan, we are guarding Xiaohua Garden under the orders of the old master. Please forgive us. Get lost. All of you get lost. Or I will kill you. A sharp female voice shouted. Di Biming frowned slightly. He took out an isolation disc from his storage ring and placed it in the bedroom before continuing to meditate. The noise outside grew louder and louder. The courtyard door was violently pushed open by someone. Someone shouted sharply, Yun Chuzhou, you little bitch, get out here. It's all your fault, otherwise, how would I be disfigured? The person who came was Fan Sushue. Ever since she found out that she had been poisoned by the salt-free powder and cried a few times, she had vented her anger on Yi Bingying and Yun Chuzhou. However, Yi Bingying had the protection of the Lu Shi, so she couldn't do anything at the moment, so she came to Yun Chuzhou to vent her anger. The guards of the Yi family didn't dare to attack Fan Sushue, and if they really did, they wouldn't be able to defeat the guards brought by Fan Sushue. Therefore, they let Fan Sushue break into Xiaohua Garden. Chapter 2441. Chong Guan was furious for the pretty boy. A little commander of the Yi family's guards hurriedly sent a message to Old Master Yi when he saw the situation, but Old Master Yi just had to go out on an errand. Old Master Yi could only order that little commander to stop Fan Sushue from hurting Yun Chuzhou. If he could not stop her, he had to try his best to stall for time. He had to rush back as soon as possible. That little commander was about to cry. Stop. Stall for time. How could he stop her? How could he stall for time? How could he really dare to touch that Miss Fan? Moreover, that Miss Fan did not come alone this time. Not only did she bring a maid, but she also brought a dozen guards with her. The spirit energy of the guards of the Fan family was much higher than theirs. How could they stop her? The little commander did not dare to disobey. He chased after her into Xiaohua Garden and said in fear and trepidation, "Miss Fan, old master will be back soon. You should go back to the guest house." Fan Sushue did not see Yun Chujio. She was angry and kicked the little commander. The little commander did not dare to dodge and was kicked. He wanted to persuade her again, but the Fan family guards looked at him threateningly. He could only keep quiet. He hoped that old Master Yi would come back quickly. Otherwise, looking at the situation, his cousin would not be able to keep her life. Fan Sushue saw that Yun Chujio had not come out yet after such a big commotion. She shouted sharply, "Yun Chujio, get out here. Or I will have someone burn down this courtyard." In the room, Di Baiming suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes were filled with a cold light. He got up and was about to leave and Yun Chujio came out from the bedroom, yawning. Yun Chujio was a cultivator. In fact, she had already woken up. She just laid on the bed for a while longer. Yun Chujio gave Di Baiming a look, indicating that she should deal with it herself. Di Baiming snorted coldly and sat down again. Yun Chujio put on her veil and pushed the door open. She leaned against the door and glanced at the chaotic situation in the courtyard before her gaze landed on Fan Sushue. Fan Sushue also wore a veil on her face. Her right hand was wrapped in a thick white cloth while her left hand was fine. When the crowd saw someone coming out of the house, they looked at the young lady leaning against the door. The young girl's body was plated with a layer of gold. Although she was just leaning lazily against the door, there was an indescribable beauty to her. Although they could not see her appearance, they felt that she was just like this. For a moment, the courtyard fell into a strange silence. Even Fan Sushue was stunned. After Fan Sushue reacted, she could not help but curse sharply, "Little bitch. You're finally willing to come out. If it wasn't for you, would I have been disfigured? Get your ass over here. Cousin Sushue, do you have a bad memory? My face is like this, but it was your good idea. As for your face being disfigured, that's karma, what does it have to do with me? Besides, I don't know how to get out, why don't you give me a demonstration?" Normally, Yun Chujio wasn't willing to have a face-to-face fight with Fan Sushue, but it wasn't easy for her to reunite with the gigolo for 2 days, and this Fan Sushue shamelessly came to disturb her, so how could a certain Jio let it go? Others would be angry at the crown for the beauty, a certain Jio would be angry at the crown for the gigolo. Fan Sushue thought that Yun Chujio would be submissive and beg for mercy. She did not expect to be questioned and ridiculed. She immediately said to the maids behind her, "Tie this bastard up and cut off her tongue for me." The 2 maids behind Fan Sushue looked at Yun Chujio with disdain. They took a few steps forward and were about to catch Yun Chujio. At this moment, the bodies of the 2 handmaidens flew out without warning and crashed heavily onto the wall of the courtyard. They immediately vomited blood and fainted. Later, not only will I cut off your tongue, I will also reward you to these servants so that they, before Fan Sushue could finish her words, her entire body flew out. Following that, the guards of the Fan family also flew out one by one. Coincidentally, they all landed on Fan Sukshu's body. The guards of the Fan family struggled to get up, only to see that Fan Sushue had long fainted. Moreover, whether it was her arm, leg, or even her ribs, they were all broken. The guards of the Fan family spat out blood as they created a soft cushion, carrying Fan Sushue and running away. They now completely believed that they had really suffered retribution. Because Yun Chujio was only a little girl at the 6th level of the Ling Xian realm. Even if she had some small tricks, it was impossible for her to send them flying at the same time. Chapter 2443 was all about the fence-sitters. The guards of the Yi family were all dumbfounded by what they saw. Oh God, it seemed that this young cousin was indeed the favorite of Tian Dao. This was too terrifying. Yun Chuzhou glanced at the guards of the Yi family and said indifferently, "Don't you have anything to say to me? Did my great-grandfather send you to my courtyard to watch a show?" The guards of the Yi family were stunned at first, then they knelt on the ground with a plop. The young commander said in fear, "Miss Cousin, this subordinate knows his mistake. But this subordinate really doesn't dare to stop Miss Fan too much. Moreover, we can't beat those guards of the Fan family." Yun Chuzhou snorted coldly, "What if the person living in this courtyard is my great-grandfather? Because you don't dare to stop him, and because you can't beat the guards of the Fan family, do you want to give way?" Cold sweat broke out on the foreheads of the little commander and those guards. They had no way to answer. If the person in the courtyard was old Master Yi, they would fight to the death to stop Fan Sushue. After all, old Master Yi was their master. Although this young Miss Cousin could be considered a master, there were naturally close and distant relatives. Moreover, in their subconscious, they also felt that Fan Sushue was much more important than Yun Chuzhou. Even old master didn't dare to offend the Fan family, let alone them. However, could these words be said? Naturally, they could not be said, so the guards of the Yi family just knelt on the ground and did not say a word. Yun Chuzhou glanced at them. For some reason, those guards felt their hearts tremble, and they were so guilty that they did not dare to raise their heads. Yun Chuzhou chuckled, and then her tone became cold, "Even if you don't say it, I know what you are thinking. Aren't you afraid of the Fan family behind Fan Sushue? However, you're carrying out the Yi family's livelihood. You're the Yi family's guards. Protecting Xiaohua Garden was my great-grandfather's order. Your mission is to carry out the orders to the letter. As for the disputes behind it, what does it have to do with you? You think that you've made the right choice. You've violated the greatest taboo of being a guard, so is this betraying your master? Do you think that there's any use for guards like you to stay in the Yi family?" Those guards were covered in cold sweat. They knew that if Yun Chuzhou told old Master Yi what she said, there was an 80 to 90% chance that they would not be able to keep their jobs. Just as they were panicking and feeling uneasy, Yun Chuzhou continued to say indifferently, "I'm not a ruthless person either. I'll give you another chance. In a while, the Fan family will definitely come again. If you can't stop them from leaving Xiaohua Garden, you won't have any value left in the Yi family." After saying that, Yun Chuzhou didn't care about the reaction of the Yi family's guards. She directly opened the door and entered the house. The guards looked at each other and finally looked at the young commander. "Boss, what should we do?" The young commander gritted his teeth. "The old master should be back soon. We just need to hold on for a little longer. Besides, Miss Fan's injuries are so serious. Aunt will probably treat her first. She might not come to seek revenge." The rest of the people thought that what he said made sense, so the guards simply made a hole in the wall and continued to stand guard outside Xiaohua Garden. Yun Chuzhou saw the behavior of the guards through the crack in the door and could not help but twitch her lips. If it were not for the fact that her 10 guards were arranged to stay in the outer residence, they would not have been needed at all. They were all fence-sitters who acted according to the wind. Chapter 2444 Yun Chuzhou turned around, threw herself into Di Baiming's arms and said, "Prince Charming, we are a perfect match. I was showing off outside, and you were supporting me in the house. It felt so good." Di Baiming's gloomy face softened after hearing Yun Chuzhou's words. "If you didn't say not to touch the Fan family, I would have killed those useless people just now. You're not afraid of settling scores. Besides, I think that Fan Sukshu's bones are more than half broken. I'm afraid that she won't be able to get out of bed for another half a year." Yun Chuzhou gloated. Di Baiming glanced at her. Aren't you afraid that your aunt will look for you to settle scores? Settle scores? They've suffered retribution. Is it my fault? Yun Chujio said fearlessly. She didn't even make a move. Those people could all testify. Besides, if it really didn't work out, she could still use the antidote of the salt-free powder to threaten them. If it weren't for the Fan family behind them, she could have played them 10,000 times over. Do you think your aunt will send someone to settle the score with you? Shouldn't she treat her daughter first? Di Biming asked in confusion. Although Fan Sushue looks quite miserable, it's only superficial wounds and there's no danger to her life. Most importantly, that aunt of mine is now blaming everything on me. I'm afraid she can't help it. If she doesn't come, it's her advantage. If she comes, I'll let her taste the taste of retribution. Male God, with you here, my heart is much more stable. Even if the sky collapses, I'm not afraid. Yun Chujio said with starry eyes. Di Biming instantly felt joy and satisfaction overflowing in his heart. He felt that nothing could make him feel so satisfied and proud like Yun Chujio's words. The two of them looked at each other affectionately and could not help but kiss each other again. After a while, a certain Jiu was nestled in Di Biming's arms. She raised her head and looked at Di Biming affectionately. Di Biming's heart was thumping violently. Was little Jiu going to confess to him again? Di Biming felt a little thirsty and asked in a hoarse voice, "Little Jiu, do you have something to say to me?" Yun Chujio nodded and said softly, "Should we eat breakfast? I'm hungry." Di Biming. The pink bubble in a certain someone's mind suddenly burst into bubbles and said with a stiff face, "Then let's eat breakfast." The two of them had just eaten breakfast when the outside of the courtyard became noisy again. Yun Chujio showed a proud expression. "Prince Charming, how is it? I told you that my aunt would come to settle the score with me, right? TSK, it's already good enough that I didn't disfigure her last time. This time, she actually delivered herself to my doorstep. If I don't torture her, it'll be letting down my conscience." Di Biming raised his eyebrows indifferently. In his eyes, these scum were really too weak. If it wasn't for the Fan family's deep foundation, it wouldn't be a big problem for him to destroy the Fan family even if he wanted to. However, when he saw how eager Yun Chujio was to give it a try, he felt that it would be good to cooperate with her acting and let her show off. When he thought of the way Yun Chujio blinked her starry eyes and worshipped him, he felt an itch in his heart. Hence, he lowered his head and kissed the smug a certain Jiu once again. A certain Jiu was kissed until the sky and earth turned dark again. When Di Biming released her, he could hear the sounds of fighting coming from outside the courtyard. Occasionally, there were also the screams of the Yi family's guards. A certain Jiu looked at the satisfied certain lord and said faintly, "Sigh, as expected, beauty ruins things." Chapter 24:45 She was beautiful, and she was perverted. Di Biming's ears were sharp. A certain Jiu glanced at him without saying a word. Yun Chujio cursed in her heart. Bah! She had kissed him, touched him, and touched him. Why was she pretending to be innocent? If she didn't know better, she would have thought that she had forcefully kissed him. Sigh, all right. It seemed that the word beautiful should be separated. Her gigolo was beautiful, and she was perverted. Ga. Just as Yun Chujio was indulging in her wild thoughts, she heard the sounds of fighting outside become even more intense. Her eyes deepened. "Prince Charming, don't make my aunt too serious later. If she is not well for a while, I'm afraid she will stay in the Yi family and won't leave." After Yun Chujio finished speaking, she pushed the door open and walked out. This guy stood at the door and shouted clearly, "Stop. Let my aunt and the others come in." When the guards of the Yi family heard Yun Chujio's words, they felt as if they had heard the sound of nature. They had no strength to resist for a long time. Yi Xinhuan brought the guards of the Fan family into the courtyard with an imposing manner. When she saw Yun Chujio, who was casually leaning against the door, the hatred in her eyes was as if it was poisoned. "Little bitch, did you beat Su Shui up like that? Get over here. Aunt, you can't just say that. I didn't touch a single finger of cousin Su Shui. If you don't believe me, you can ask the maids and guards. I didn't move a single inch from the beginning to the end," Yun Chujio said slowly. "Nonsense. You little bitch, don't think that you can fool me just because you know some tricks. Even if you didn't do it, it was you who did it. Get your ass over here. Or else I'll tear down your Xiaohua garden." Although Yi Xinwen's words were vicious, she was still a little worried about the so-called retribution, so she planned to force Yun Chujio to surrender herself. "Aunt, don't blame me for not reminding you. Every blade of grass and tree here used to belong to my mother, and now they're all mine. If anyone dares to touch them, it'll make them suffer retribution." Yun Chujio still looked casual, but her tone was cold. Some people couldn't help but shiver. "Humph. You're playing tricks. Smash it. Destroy this broken courtyard." Yi Xinhuan ordered the guards of the Fan family behind her. The guards of the Yi family immediately looked at Yun Chujio. Should they stop her or not? They saw Yun Chujio's indifferent expression and didn't know what she meant. They thought about it and thought that she was a powerful person. It was better to stop her. Therefore, the Yi family guards stopped the Fan family guards one after another. Of course, they did not dare to be too forceful and only tried to persuade them nicely. "Everyone, calm down. Aunt is just saying these words out of anger. How can she really smash the courtyard? That's right. We are all one family. Don't be rash, don't be rash. Aunt and Miss have some misunderstanding. In a while, our old master will come back. When that time comes, a piece of cloud will disperse." The guards of the Fan family would not listen to them. They pushed away the guards of the Yi family rudely. Some of them simply attacked. The guards of the Yi family did not dare to fight back. They were in a sorry state. Yun Chujio snorted coldly. "Are you guys still considered men? You are bullied to such an extent and you don't even dare to fight back. What are you trying to persuade me for? Beat them up. If there's anything, they'll take responsibility." The guards of the Yi family had been holding back their anger for a long time. Just now outside the courtyard, they were only defending and did not dare to attack. Hence, they were all wounded. Now that they heard Yun Chujio say this, damn it. Since there was someone backing them up, even if they could not beat them up, it was still better than being bullied like this. Hence, the attitude of the guards of the Yi family suddenly hardened, and the two sides formed a standoff. Yi Xinhuan saw the situation and said ferociously, "A bunch of traitors. Give them a good beating and let them know the consequences of being loyal to this little bitch." The Fan family's guards received the order and immediately started to fight with the Yi family's guards. Yun Chujio squinted her eyes and looked. Although the Yi family's guards were more numerous than the Fan family's, their strength was indeed inferior by a large margin. They definitely could not beat them. Yun Chujio did not shout out to stop them, nor did she ask Di Baiming to make a move. This guy was very evil. Those guards of the Yi family were all very crafty. It would be good to use the Fan family to teach them a lesson. Moreover, no matter who was beaten up, there would be complaints. Planting a seed of hatred towards the Fan family in their hearts would only bring benefits. It was only until the guards of the Yi family were basically unable to retaliate that this guy shouted, "Stop fighting. If you continue to fight, people will die. Don't you just want me to surrender?" "I agree." Yi Xinhuan snorted coldly, and the guards of the Fan family finally stopped. The guards of the Yi family were all beaten into a sorry state. They supported each other as they stood up. One could imagine the resentment they felt towards Yi Xinhuan. On the contrary, their impression of Yun Chujio was much better. Look at her cousin's young miss. In order not to let them lose their lives, she was willing to surrender herself. Such a master was really too rare. Yi Xinhuan looked at Yun Chujio with disdain. HMPH, at least you're sensible. You two go over and tie her up for me. The two guards of the Fan family walked towards Yun Chujio in a carefree manner. Although they had heard about what had happened previously, they felt that it was definitely a trick played by Yun Chujio. They did not put Yun Chujio in their eyes at all. The two guards walked closer and closer, but nothing happened. The expressions on their faces became even more savage. As long as they caught this Yun Chujio, the madam would definitely reward them generously. Just as the two guards were dreaming, a huge force attacked them. Their bodies flew out uncontrollably, knocking down the wall that the guards of the Yi family had just repaired. They spat out blood and passed out. Yi Xinhuan and the guards of the Fan family could not help but take a few steps back, feeling a sense of panic in their hearts. On the other hand, the guards of the Yi family suddenly felt elated. Even the wounds on their bodies did not seem to hurt anymore. They wished that the remaining guards of the Fan family and Yi Xinhuan would be sent flying. Yi Xinhuan had the thought of retreating because she had seen with her own eyes that Yun Chujio did not move at all. Moreover, the two guards were still quite a distance away from her. How could they be sent flying? Yun Chujio frowned. What kind of madness were these guards of the Yi family? Initially, she had planned to let Di Baiming wipe out the guards of the Fan family. But now, they were in a scuffle and there was no way to attack. Sigh. There was really no way. She did not do anything. How did these people turn from fence-sitters to little white yang? Could it be that the glory of her humanity had awakened their conscience? Yi Xinhuan looked at Yun Chujio viciously. Little bitch, you're just like that bitch mother of yours. You're used to flirting. Before Yi Xinhuan could finish her words, she flew out like a kite with a broken string. After a long while, she heard a thump. Yun Chujio touched her chin. That old bitch was most likely sent flying into the pond in front of her by that pretty boy. Seeing that their master was sent flying, the guards of the Fan family did not care about the guards of the Yi family anymore. They all jumped out of Xiaohua Garden to save Yi Xinhuan. The guards of the Yi family looked at each other and did not know what to do. Yun Chujio took out a bottle of hemostatic pills from her storage ring and threw it to the little commander. Treat your injuries first. I think they will be back soon. The little commander opened the bottle cap and saw that although the grade of the pills inside was not high, they were actually transcendent grade pills. He could not help but feel shocked and touched. After thanking her, he distributed the pills to everyone. Not long after, Yi Xinhuan's vicious curses were indeed heard from afar. Yun Chujio could not help but shake her head. Some people just did not learn their lesson. Anyone with a brain would not come and humiliate themselves. This Yi Xinhuan was really a self-righteous idiot. No wonder Yi Lan could easily set her and that Fan Jichuan up back then. The value of such an idiot was to be used by others. This time, Yi Xinhuan was probably also used by Lu Shi. However, the opponent they met was her. It was destined that their ending would be to steal the chicken but end up losing the rice. Sure enough, Yi Xinhuan walked in with people cursing and swearing. Although her clothes had been dried by her spiritual power, her meticulously combed hair was wet into a ball, looking extremely comical. Little bitch. I don't care what tricks you used. If you don't obey obediently today, I'll set Xiaohua Garden on fire. As Yi Xinhuan said this, she got her subordinates to prepare to set the place on fire. Yun Chujio thought of a saying, a tree wants to be quiet, but the wind doesn't stop. Sometimes, it's not enough for you to calm things down. Take Yi Xinhuan and her daughter for example. She didn't provoke them, but they came to provoke her again and again. Forget it. Yi Xinhuan already saw her as a thorn in her side, so there was nothing to be afraid of. Yun Chujiu thought of this and smiled lightly. She slowly walked towards Yi Xinhuan. "Aunt, didn't you want to teach me a lesson? I'm here." When the guards of the Fan family saw Yun Chujiu walking over, they could not help but step back. Yi Xinhuan cursed angrily, "It's just a little bitch. If any of you dare to step back, I'll kill him. You guys go up and capture her." Although the guards were afraid, they didn't dare to disobey her. They rushed towards Yun Chujiu and flew out one after another. Yi Xinhuan was really a little timid this time. She said with a stern face but a weak heart, "Little bitch, you, don't come over. Auntie, you're the one who asked me to come over, and you're the one who didn't want me to come over. With your inconsistency, I don't know what to do. Why don't you come over?" Yi Xinhuan wasn't willing to go over. She turned around and wanted to run, but suddenly a huge pressure came over, and she couldn't move at all. She watched Yun Chujiu walk in front of her. Yun Chujiu saw that Yi Xinhuan did not move and knew that it was the work of Di Biming. She curled her lips. It was good to have a strong backer. "Aunt, I really don't understand. I have never offended you, why do you have to target me? It's fine if you usually insult me, but you still want to occupy my courtyard and even poison me to ruin my looks. What is the reason for this?" Yi Xinhuan was about to speak. Yun Chujiu chuckled. "Actually, I know even if you don't tell me. Because of your inferiority complex, you were suppressed by my mother's halo until you lost all luster. You can't compete with my mother, so you want to vent your resentment on me. TSK, I have to say that you're really good at deceiving yourself. You'll never be able to compete with my mother in this lifetime. Even your daughter can't compete with me. Stop dreaming." Yi Xinhuan's vicious gaze was like a poisonous snake. "Little bitch, you're spouting nonsense. I can't compare to that Yilan. What a joke. That Yilan was so insufferably arrogant back then. What happened in the end? Didn't she still marry a lowly person? Did she give birth to a trash like you? As for me, I'm the wife of a super aristocratic family. My son is the most favored junior in the Fan family. My Su Shui is 10,000 times stronger than you. Her spiritual power and family background are much higher than yours. You will never be able to compare to her in this lifetime. TSK, I really sympathize with you. Sometimes, self-deception is also a kind of skill. Do you still need me to remind you of what happened back then? It's just your honey and your arsenic. As for Fan Sushue, TSK, I don't need to compete with her spiritual power, nor do I need to compete with her family background. I just need to be more beautiful than her." As Yun Chujiu spoke, she lifted the veil on her face. Her beautiful face instantly stunned everyone present, especially the bright confidence in her eyes, which burned Yi Xinhuan's confidence. You! How can you not be disfigured? This is impossible." Yi Xinhuan shouted in disbelief. She was clearly disfigured. "I can't help it. Who asked me to be the darling of Tian Dao? I was disfigured on the first day, but I recovered the next day. Don't you think it's infuriating?" Yi Xinhuan felt her head buzzing. She was completely devastated by the fact that Yun Chujiu was not disfigured. "Aunt, although my mother and you are not on good terms, we are not mortal enemies, right? Why do you have to target me? Did someone say something to you that shouldn't be said? Besides, I'm also very puzzled. How did cousin Su Shui get disfigured by the salt-free powder? Is it really the retribution of Tian Dao, or have you guys been schemed against? TSK, you don't have to doubt me. I've never even left Xiaohua Garden. Moreover, my appearance has already recovered to its original state. Why should I provoke you guys? Yi Xinhuan couldn't help but think of Lu Shi and Yi Bingying. If it wasn't for their instigation, even though she couldn't stand Yun Chuzhou, she might not have thought of occupying the courtyard. If Yi Bingying hadn't kept talking about how beautiful Yun Chuzhou was in front of Su Shui wouldn't have suggested poisoning her. All of this was instigated by the mother and daughter. However, Yi Bingying was also disfigured. How could she explain this? And, do you think that Yi Bingying is no longer a suspect just because she's disfigured? I think that there might have been a slight deviation in their plan. That's why she accidentally got herself involved. It can only be said that it's retribution, Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. Dog eat dog was the most interesting thing. Even if they couldn't really fight, it was still good to prevent them from joining forces. The expression on Yi Xinwen's face changed a few times. Then, she glared at Yun Chuzhou and said, I will naturally settle the score with them. You won't be able to escape either. Let's wait and see. Auntie, let's not talk about waiting and see. Even if I run, I will accompany you. However, those who go against me usually don't have a good ending. You have to be careful. Yun Chuzhou said indifferently. Of course, she would not naively think that a few words from her would be enough to make Yi Xinhuan abandon evil and become good. Yi Xinhuan looked at Yun Chuzhi's beautiful face and wished that she could destroy it immediately. However, she also felt that today's matter was too strange. If she were to find fault with it again, she was afraid that it would not end well for her. Just as Yi Xinhuan was in a dilemma, Old Master Yi rushed back. Old Master Yi had already prepared himself for the worst on the way back. He felt that Yun Chuzhou was most likely going to suffer. Especially if Yi Xinhuan found out that she wasn't disfigured, her life would be in danger. Old Master Yi saw from afar that the courtyard wall of Xiaohua Garden had collapsed, and there were more than 10 people lying on the ground. It's over. It's over. Those lying on the ground must be the Yi family's guards. Little Jiu must have been killed. Old Master Yi sighed repeatedly. He hurried over but didn't expect to come back late. Housekeeper Fu, who was at the side, said in surprise, Old Master, those lying on the ground seem to be the Fan family's guards. They aren't our Yi family's guards. Old Master Yi took a closer look. It was really true. How was this possible? The Fan family guards were much more powerful than their Yi family guards. Old Master Yi came closer and saw that Yun Chuzhou had already taken off her veil. There were no signs of injury. On the other side, Yi Xinwen's hair was still dripping with water. Her clothes were also full of water stains. What on earth was going on? Yun Chuzhou saw Old Master Yi and her eyes immediately turned red. Great-grandfather, you're finally back. Aunt wants to kill me. I was scared to death. Everyone present looked at Yun Chuzhou with a dumbfounded expression. It was rare to see someone so shameless. Especially the guards of the Fan family. They were all lying on the ground. When they heard Yun Chuzhi's words, they spat out another mouthful of blood and fainted again. Yi Xinhuan was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Grandfather, don't listen to her nonsense. Yun Chuzhou wiped her tears with her sleeve. How am I spouting nonsense? Aren't you here to kill me? Didn't your people cause my courtyard wall to collapse? Didn't you threaten me just now? Let me wait and see. If it weren't for my good luck, I might have turned into a corpse by now. You're my biological aunt. Don't you feel sorry for your conscience by treating me like this? Yi Xinhuan could not utter a single word. Yes, she was indeed here to kill this little bastard, but why was it that in the end, not only were the guards of the Fan family heavily injured, even Su Shui was beaten half to death? Why was this so? Old Master Yi was clearly a little dumbfounded as well. He could only beckon the little commander to come over and ask about the situation. The little commander hated Yi Xinhuan to death now, and his favorable impression of Yun Chujio rose rapidly. Thus, in the process of narrating, he could not help but slightly refine it. Great-grandfather Yes' expression was uncertain. On one hand, it was because he was displeased with Yi Xinhuan and her mother. On the other hand, he was very curious about how Yun Chujio did it. As for what kind of retribution, great-grandfather Yi naturally did not believe it. Great-grandfather Yes' face was dark as water as he said to Yi Xinhuan, "You're an elder, what's wrong with you? Why aren't you going back?" Yi Xinhuan glared at Yun Chujio coldly and left with the Fan family's guards. The fainted Fan family's guards were also woken up and helped to leave. Great-grandfather Yi waved his hand, and the Yi family's guards retreated outside Xiaohua Garden. Great-grandfather Yi and Yun Chujio went to Xiaohua Garden's study room. "Tell me, what exactly happened?" Old Master Yi stared at Yun Chujio and asked. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "I don't know either. I guess someone helped me in the dark. Sometimes when I'm in danger, someone will help me in the dark. Maybe my mother showed herself. It would be a ghost if old Master Yi believed her words." However, he could not press her too hard. He could only sigh. "Little Jiu, no matter who is behind you, the Fan family is not someone you can afford to offend. I understand Xinwen's character. This matter will definitely not be let off easily. You should try to stay in the Xingtian Academy in the future. If you want to return to the Yi family, tell me in advance. I'll send someone to pick you up. Don't go out alone, understand?" Yun Chujio thought about the meaning behind old Master Yes' words. Although on one hand, she was indeed worried about her safety, she also had the intention of keeping a distance from her. This was because she had never heard of anyone who needed to communicate in advance if they wanted to return home. However, it was also understandable. Fan Sushue had been beaten by her until she could not get out of bed for half a year. The Fan family would definitely be dissatisfied with the Yi family. After Aunt and the others leave, I will return to Xingtian Academy. I have missed a lot of classes at this stage. In the future, I will be at ease and study hard in the academy. I will try my best not to go out." Yun Chujio said with a faint smile. They were all old foxes, so they were very clear about the subtext in both parties' words. Old Master Yi nodded and said, "I hope Dr. Deng can really develop an antidote for salt-free powder. Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to protect you." Yun Chujio's heart moved, and she frowned slightly. "I did see Dr. Deng yesterday, and I heard that he has some clues. However, it seems that the antidote for salt-free powder requires several mid-grade heaven-grade spirit herbs. I'm afraid the price is not cheap." Old Master Yi was delighted. "Is it true? As long as we can develop the antidote, even spending more spirit stones is worth it." Yun Chujio nodded. "Dr. Deng said so yesterday. I reckon that there will be some clues in a few days." Old Master Yes' heart brightened up a little. As long as Fan Sukshu's face was cured, the rest of the matters would be much easier to handle. Great-grandfather Yi gave a few more instructions before leaving Xiaohua Garden. Yun Chujio turned around and entered her bedroom. Di Baiming was meditating and cultivating when he saw her enter. Only then did he open his eyes. "What did great-grandfather Yi say to you?" Yun Chujio recounted what had happened, then she said self-deprecatingly, "The Yun family and I are not related by blood, but they are sincere to me. The Mo family and the Yi family are my family, but their actions are extremely chilling. If not for my meticulous planning, I'm afraid they would have treated me as an abandoned child long ago." You have me, why do you care about them? It's better not to have such a family. Di Baiming saw that Yun Chujio was in a low mood and said while stroking her hair. Yun Chujio grunted. In her previous life, she was an abandoned child, so she yearned for family ties. Otherwise, according to her character, she would have dealt with those people from the Mo family long ago. Moreover, even if she was extremely intelligent, her spiritual power was still too weak. If she didn't have the protection of her family, she wouldn't be able to stand on her own feet now. Yun Chujio could not help but laugh at herself. She was really a pot calling the kettle black. Old Master Yi was focused on the interests of the family, and she was just looking for a place to stay. It was not a big deal. When Di Baiming heard Yun Chujio's words, his heart ached. He knew Yun Chujio's desire for kinship and family, but he could not give her anything now. He could not even give her a guarantee of stability. Di Baiming was initially hesitant about one thing, but now he had made up his mind. He could not continue this little by little anymore. Even if it was a risk, he had to give it a try. Otherwise, if he wanted to live a stable life, it would be a distant future. Yun Chujio did not know that Di Baiming had already made an extremely risky decision. She said to Di Baiming, "Prince Charming, you should sleep for a while. Yi Xinwan will probably not come to find trouble in a while. I will keep an eye on her from outside." Di Baiming wanted to clear his mind, so he took the opportunity to agree. Yun Chujio saw that Di Baiming had laid down. She went out of the house and supervised the servant sent by housekeeper Fu to repair the wall. As this guy watched, bad water came out. He took out cinnabar from his storage ring and wrote a big line of words on the wall. When the servants and guards saw the words written by Yun Chujio, they were like dogs. On the bluestone wall, there was a line of words that were as red as blood: "Whoever destroys Xiaohua Garden will be punished. A woman's face will be disfigured, and a man will have no descendants." After Yun Chujio finished writing, she felt very satisfied. The most important thing for a woman was her appearance, and the most important thing for a man was naturally his children. Although many people might not believe in this curse, people's imagination was very strong. She did not believe that anyone would take the risk of being cursed and destroy Xiaohua Garden. The handymen who were repairing the wall were originally doing their work casually. After seeing this line of bright red words, they immediately became cautious, as if they were not holding a brick but their descendants. The guards looked at each other. This cousin lady was really mean. It was just that her handwriting was too ugly. It was said that people were like their words, but it did not seem to be the case. Yun Chujio was admiring her calligraphy when she heard a commotion coming from afar. Yun Chujio waved at the guard commander and said, "Go and see what's going on. Come back and report to me." The guard commander ran away happily and returned in a short while. "Young lady, it's Aunt and First Madam who are quarreling." They were about to start fighting, but someone went to report to the old madam. After the old madam came, they stopped both sides. Yun Chujio curled her lips. TSK, why did they start fighting all of a sudden? We are all relatives, why bother? The little commander's eyes twitched. Don't you know why they started fighting? You were the one who instigated it, all right? Now you are pretending to be innocent. Yun Chujio turned around and entered the house. She wanted to show off, but only then did she remember that Di Baiming was sleeping. She blinked her eyes and took out a dagger from her storage ring. She bared her teeth and put more than 20 small jade bottles of blood into it. She put the small jade bottles into the wooden box. After thinking for a while, she took out a small bamboo basket and placed the wooden box on the lowest level. On top of it, she put some spirit fruits and other food into the storage ring. This fellow couldn't help but laugh at himself. Just treat it as a blood donation. In any case, as long as this thing didn't lose too much in one go, it wasn't a big deal. This fellow spoke so casually, but he suddenly felt a little dizzy. Damn it, he had placed too much in one go. Yun Chujio took a moment to recover and ate something. Only then did she feel a little better. She sorted out some medicinal pills and some food. She even prepared a few sacks for debining. She sighed. She had yet to learn the drawing method of high-grade talismans. Otherwise, she could give the pretty boy dozens of sacks. She decided to go to the second or third grade class when she went back. She wanted to see if she could learn how to draw high-grade talismans and high-grade elixirs. She suddenly found a goal to strive for. She felt full of energy. Di Biming woke up in less than 4 hours. When he saw Yun Chujio, he frowned slightly and asked, "Why do you look a little pale? Is that so? Maybe I haven't been basking in the sun recently, so I'm getting fairer and fairer. Isn't one white covering all ugliness? Prince Charming, do you think I'm even more beautiful?" A certain Jiu asked shamelessly. Di Biming snorted noncommittally. A certain Jiu was instantly unhappy. "What do you mean by snorting? Are you even more beautiful?" Di Biming only raised his eyebrows and did not say anything. Yun Chujio continued to ask non-stop. Di Biming seemed to find it very interesting to tease her. A certain Jiu was so angry that she stomped her feet. The two of them played around for a while. Di Biming said seriously, "I don't think Yi Xinhuan will let this go. Try not to go out in the Xingtian Academy. After this period, I will ask Feng to come back and protect you." Yun Chujio nodded, "Oh right, my Prince Charming, I've prepared some food for you. You can keep the chili noodles for yourself." Di Biming did not care too much about it and allowed Yun Chujio to transfer the items into his storage ring. The two of them seemed to have a lot to talk about, but time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, it was already midnight. Yun Chujio pursed her lips and pretended to be strong as she said, "Prince Charming, it's time. You should go. Otherwise, when the sun rises, it will be hard to get away." Di Biming clenched his fists. He wanted to say something, but he swallowed it back. Forget it, the outcome of the matter was not certain yet. He should not let little Jiu worry about it. Di Biming gritted his teeth. "I'm leaving. You take care of yourself." After Di Biming finished speaking, he pushed open the door and disappeared with a leap. Yun Chujio caught up to the door and only saw an afterimage. She was stunned for a moment before closing the door and lying back on the bed. What she did not know was that Di Biming had left and returned. He stood at the door for a long time before sighing silently and leaping towards the guest house. While Di Biming and Yun Chujio were talking, he had already found out the location of the guest house. He felt that it was necessary to give the Yi family a warning so that they would not provoke little Jiu for a short period of time. When Di Biming arrived at the guest house, he waved his sleeves and the guards fell to the ground one after another. Di Biming used cinnabar to write the word "kill" on the ground in the courtyard and then slapped the house. The house in the guest house collapsed with a loud bang. Screams and exclamations came from inside the house. Di Biming raised his eyebrows and disappeared into the night with a leap. Yun Chujio heard the commotion in the guest house and her heart skipped a beat. She immediately guessed that it was Di Biming's doing. Her heart was sweet and sour. How could she sleep? This guy simply got up and jumped onto the roof to watch the show. That night, the Yi residence was in chaos again. It was said that when Yi Xinhuan saw the bright red word "kill" in the middle of the courtyard, she fainted from fright. A certain Jiu watched the show for a while before returning to her room with her head drooping. She hugged a certain portrait and fell asleep. The next morning, the 6 servants in the servants' room finally woke up. They were very puzzled. Why did it feel like they had slept for a long time? When the 6 of them came out of the room and saw the brand new wall, they were immediately at a loss. The 6 of them did not have time to think about it. They suddenly felt very hungry. How could they be so hungry after only sleeping for one night? It was really strange. When 2 of the maids came back with breakfast, they realized that they had not slept for one night. It was clearly 1 day and 2 nights. The little devil was really sneaky. Was he planning to make them unable to sleep for a long time? Just as the 6 of them were cursing in their hearts, Yun Chujio yawned and came out. After Yun Chujio saw the 6 of them, she asked, "You're awake? Do you think that I've gone too far by letting you sleep for so long?" The 6 of them shook their heads repeatedly. What a joke! How would they dare to express their dissatisfaction? "Sigh, you really don't understand my good intentions. Yesterday, my aunt and Fan Sushue came to find trouble. If you hadn't fallen asleep, would you still be standing here and talking to me? I reckon that they would have long been killed by the rod of their anger." Yun Chujio sighed and said. The 6 servants were stunned at first, then they revealed expressions of gratitude. They felt that they really had the heart of a petty person. Miss Biao had made them fall asleep completely out of the perspective of protecting them. They actually blamed the young miss. They were really worse than pigs and dogs. Fan Sushue was seriously injured and could not move, and Yi Xinwan was scared to death. The mother and daughter of Lu Shi were afraid that Yi Xinwan would be jealous and hate them again, so they did not dare to do anything evil. Therefore, for the next few days, the Yi family was peaceful. On this day, Dr. Deng came to see Yun Chujio in a hurry. When he saw the red words on the wall, the corner of his eyes could not help but twitch. This Miss Yun was really mean. After Dr. Deng saw Yun Chujio, he said, "There are some clues about the antidote, but I still need to try a few more times to confirm the specific ratio. Miss Yun, tell me the truth. Did you already know the antidote formula for the salt-free powder?" Dr. Deng was not a fool. How could it be so coincidental? The herbs in the wooden box were all needed for the salt-free powder antidote. Also, how did she know that the violet blood forsythia needed to be roasted to be used as medicine? Yun Chujio said with a smile, "I found out by chance, but I only know which herbs I need. As for the specific ratio, I don't know. I'm only a level 10 alchemist." "How can I be as experienced as you?" Dr. Deng originally felt that he had been toyed with. Now that he heard Yun Chujio say this, he felt a little better. Speaking of which, although she knew how many herbs she needed. But if she didn't have enough experience, she wouldn't be able to figure out the exact formula. "Old miracle doctor, since the antidote is about to be developed, it's time for you to make a condition to my aunt and my first aunt. You only need to make 2 conditions. As there are several mid-grade heaven rank elixirs, the cost is huge. Sell them 50 million high-grade spirit stones for a bottle, and make them swear that they will never harm you. Don't worry, even if they feel that the conditions are too excessive, they will comply, because they have no other choice." Dr. Deng was a little reluctant, but he had already boarded the pirate ship, so he could only agree. After Yun Chujio sent Dr. Deng away, she hummed a little tune and entered the house. This guy remembered that he hadn't told Di Biming about her bleeding. After counting the days, it was impossible for Di Biming to come back and settle the score with her, so he took out the voice transmission talisman and told Di Biming about the matter. The brother of Zhu Jingtai who died, Zhu Jingtong, has been growing very fast recently. It is said that he got an opportunity during the test. "Little sister Jiu, he has always been hostile to you. You should be careful in the future, said Shui Wuji. Yun Chuzhou nodded. She did not care too much. In the academy, Zhu Jingtong did not dare to do anything. After Jin Ji and Shui Wuji left, Yun Chuzhou chewed on the spiritual fruit while listening to the lessons recorded by Jin Ji, in case she couldn't keep up with the progress of the lessons. The next day, Teacher Dong saw that Yun Chuzhou didn't ridicule her, but when the lessons were over, he said, although some people's spiritual power has already reached a medium level, if they fish in 3 days and fish in 2 days, I'm afraid they won't be able to learn the illusion technique of spiritual power in their lifetime. Yun Chuzhou was already used to this Teacher Dong's way of speaking. She knew that this was meant for her to hear. She stood up and said clearly, Teacher Dong, thank you for your teachings. I will make up for the lessons that I have missed. Teacher Dong was stunned by Yun Chujia's stroke of genius. His expression was a little unnatural as he said dryly, it's good that you know. Take care of yourself. After saying that, Teacher Dong flicked his sleeves and left the classroom. However, he seemed to be taking a detour and almost tripped over the doorsill. Yun Chuzhou was secretly happy. This Teacher Dong was really interesting. During lunch, Yun Chuzhou said to Shui Wuji and Jin Ji, I'm going to the second grade's day class to listen to the Talisman Seal class in the afternoon. Are you guys going? Shui Wuji and Jin Ji shook their heads. They were not Talisman Seal's masters, so it would be a waste of time if they went. Therefore, after Yun Chuzhou took a nap, she strolled to the day class alone. Yun Chuzhou was now a famous person in Xingtian Academy, so the moment she entered the classroom, all the second-year students in the classroom recognized her. Since the second-year Dao Talisman class was an elective class, the students in the classroom were all second-year Dao Talisman students. When everyone saw Yun Chuzhou, they couldn't help but look at a male student. It was He Hongchuan, who had a conflict with Yun Chuzhou. Everyone thought that Yun Chuzhou was looking for trouble with him. He Hongchuan revealed a panicked expression. Yun Chuzhou was no longer the same as before. She was the daughter of a first-class family. He couldn't afford to offend her. The room was silent. Everyone's eyes flashed with gossip. This Yun Chuzhou was really arrogant. She actually came to the classroom to take revenge. Just as everyone was imagining it, they saw Yun Chuzhou walking towards He Hongchuan. Everyone immediately stretched their necks and looked at the two of them. They were going to fight. They were going to fight again. Ever since Yun Chuzhou asked for a leave of absence, the Xingtian Academy had not been lively for a long time. Today, they could finally feast their eyes. He Hongchuan's face revealed a panicked expression. He gritted his teeth and said, Yun Chuzhou, this is the academy. Even if your Yi family is powerful, you can't use your power to bully others. Senior He, is there anyone sitting on the empty seat next to you? Let me tell you, I'm not afraid of you. What? Empty seat? He Hongchuan was clearly confused. Wasn't Yun Chuzhou here to take revenge? Why did she ask about the empty seat? Yun Chuzhou asked again. He Hongchuan said in a daze, there's no one. That's great. This seat will be mine from now on. I'll be sitting here from now on. Please make way, let me in. Yun Chuzhou clapped her hands and said excitedly. He Hongchuan's body reacted faster than his brain. He stood up subconsciously and let Yun Chuzhou sit in the seat against the wall. When he reacted, Yun Chuzhou was already sitting in the seat and chewing on the spiritual fruit. Cold sweat broke out on He Hongchuan's forehead. It was over. What bad water was this Yun Chuzhou taking? Did she want to beat him up in front of the teacher? Or was she planning to interfere with his studies so that he would be eliminated during the final exam? All of a sudden, He Hongchuan came up with a lot of scary schemes and tricks, and the cold sweat on his head grew more and more. The other students in the classroom were thinking the same thing as He Hongchuan. This Yun Chujio would definitely seek revenge for the smallest grievance. This time, she must have come up with some bad moves, and there would be a good show to watch in the future. After a while, Teacher Yang, who was teaching the second-year talismans class, walked in. He did not notice that there was an extra student in the classroom. He began to teach the class step by step. Today, we will continue to learn the drawing method of the level 10 earth-splitting talisman. Everyone, look over here, Teacher Yang said as a shadow stone appeared on the podium. The second grade classroom was different from the first grade classroom. The first grade classroom podium was in the middle, while the second grade classroom podium was at the front. A huge talisman appeared on the shadow stone, and the patterns on it were clearly visible. Teacher Yang pointed at about 1/10 of the talisman with his ring ruler and said, "We've explained this far in the last class. Have you all gone back to practice?" Everyone naturally expressed their intention to go back to practice. Teacher Yang nodded and said, "In that case, I will select a student and let him come up to demonstrate." Teacher Yang looked around and found that all the students were listening to him attentively. Only one student lowered his head and used his finger to draw on the table. He immediately felt a little displeased. He pointed with his finger. "That female student, come up and demonstrate." After Teacher Yang finished speaking, he heard everyone gasp and felt even more displeased. It seemed that this student must have quite a few criminal records. He raised his voice. "That female student, did you hear that?" Yun Chujio was using her finger to draw the earth-splitting talisman when she heard He Hongchuan's trembling voice. "Yun, Miss Yun, teacher is calling you." Yun Chujio raised her head in a daze. Her gaze happened to meet Teacher Yang's gaze. Teacher Yang was stunned. Wasn't this the little devil? Why did he come to the second grade? Could it be that the first grade wasn't tormented enough and he still wanted to stir up trouble in the second grade? "Yun Chujio, why are you here?" Most teachers wouldn't like a student like Yun Chujio who caused trouble. Teacher Yang wasn't surprised. The first thought that flashed through his mind was that this Yun Chujio was here to cause trouble. Yun Chujio stood up and said very naturally, "I'm here to listen to the class." The academy did not prohibit students from listening in on the class, right? Teacher Yang choked. The academy really did not have such a rule, but which normal person would come to the senior class to listen to the class for no reason? Although there is no such rule, but I am a teacher of the talisman class. If you cannot meet my standards, then please leave the classroom and do not disturb the other students in class, Teacher Yang said with slight annoyance. He Hongchuan was just short of cheering for Teacher Yang. His words were too fucking good. Hurry up and get rid of this little devil. Otherwise, he, Teacher Yang's proud student, would not be able to survive. Because his heart was filled with panic, he did not have the mood to listen to the class. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "Teacher Yang, you are right. You are in charge of your class. Then, may I ask, what standards do you have?" Teacher Yang did not expect Yun Chujio to agree so readily. But what criteria did she use to make things difficult for her? He thought for a moment and saw the pattern on the shadow stone. He suddenly had an idea. It's very simple. If you can draw 1/10 of this earth-shattering talisman, then you have met the criteria. However, this drawing is not to be casually drawn. There are no pauses and no mistakes in the middle. Can you do it? Teacher Yang said with some pride. Everyone in the classroom clicked their tongues. It seemed that Teacher Yang didn't like this Yun Chujio very much. This was purely making things difficult for her. The higher the level of the talisman, the more complicated it was. Even if it was 1/10 of the earth-splitting talisman, it was impossible to complete it without several practices. Moreover, this little newbie Yun Chujio was probably just curious and came to listen. If she could successfully draw it, it would be a miracle. Everyone looked at Yun Chujio. They felt that according to Yun Chujio's personality, she would definitely act like a scoundrel. If she acted like a scoundrel and refused to go out, Teacher Yang might not be able to do anything about it. Occasionally missing content, please report errors in time. Teacher Yang, is what you said true? If I draw it, will you allow me to listen in the future? Yun Chujio asked with a smile. Teacher Yang nodded. Of course. If you can do it, I will allow you to listen in on my lessons in the future. Yun Chujio asked Ti Hongchuan to move aside. She left her seat and walked to the podium. Then, she asked Teacher Yang very naturally, how do I draw? Teacher Yang almost fainted from anger. What did she mean by how do I draw? Yun Chujio saw Teacher Yang's dumbfounded face and quickly added, what I mean is, how do I demonstrate? Do I use a talisman brush to draw? Teacher Yang said unhappily, how else do you think I would draw? Could it be drawing with my finger? Yun Chujio complained in her heart. What's wrong with using her finger to draw? I can use my finger to draw. Don't see too much of it. Even though this fellow was complaining, she still obediently took out the talisman pen from her storage ring and walked to the operating table. There were ready-made talisman papers and demon beast blood on the operating table. Yun Chujio picked up the talisman pen and dipped it in demon beast blood. Everyone thought that when she started drawing, this fellow threw down the talisman pen and ran to the front of the shadow stone. Although everyone did not dare to laugh out loud, they all had gloating expressions on their faces. This Yun Chujio was now on the sedan chair and her ears were pricked. Could it be that she thought that she would be able to successfully draw it just by looking at it for a while? Dream on. He Hongchuan's hands were tightly clenched. There was only one wish in his heart, and that was that Yun Chujio could not draw it. That way, he would no longer be a threat. Teacher Yang watched Yun Chujio's actions coldly from the side. His expression was full of contempt. Although this Yun Chujio was very smart and her spiritual power had improved, she thought too simply about talismans. Only one person out of 1,000 cultivators could draw talismans, and only one person out of 1,000 who could draw talismans could become a talisman master. Only 1 out of 10,000 talisman masters could draw high-grade talismans. So, did this little girl Yun Chujio think that she could draw just by looking at it? She really overestimated herself. Yun Chujio looked at it for a while and then raised her paw. Teacher Yang, I found a problem. Can you please answer it? Teacher Yang curled his lips and said, what problem? Don't drag it out. If you don't meet the standard, even if you find the dean to talk to you, I won't allow you to listen. Yun Chujio said with a smile, it's not a big problem. Can you lend me the ruler? Teacher Yang was stunned and a strange thought arose in his mind. Could it be that this Yun Chujio wanted to hit someone with the ruler? Although Teacher Yang was suspicious, he still handed the ruler to Yun Chujio. The student sitting at the front subconsciously shrank back. This little devil had a criminal record. He would beat people up if they didn't agree with him, it was better to be careful. Yun Chujio was really mean. She deliberately shook the ruler, scaring the few students so much that their hearts almost jumped out. After Yun Chujio broke the ruler. Then, she raised the ruler and pointed at a spot on the shadow stone. Teacher Yang, I feel that the lines here are a little strange. If this is a real talisman, I'm afraid that when it is activated, the power of the earth-cracking talisman should be only 1/10 of the normal talisman, or even less. Although the students below were a little afraid that Yun Chujio would find fault, they still laughed out loud. Was this Yun Chujio's brain sick? Would Teacher Yang use a problematic talisman to demonstrate? Who did she think she was? Coming here to act like a big clove of garlic, she really overestimated herself and brought disgrace upon herself. Teacher Yang was amused. Yun Chuzhou, if you don't know how to draw, just say it. This shadow stone has been used for thousands of years, and no one has ever raised any objections. Besides, how is there anything strange about this line? Although He Hongchuan tried his best to hold it in, his eyes were full of schadenfreude. Haha, this Yun Chuzhou was really stupid. She actually dared to question the information of the shadow stone. This time, even if she acted shamelessly, she wouldn't be able to stay. Yun Chuzhou glanced at the crowd and said calmly, "The lines here seem smooth, but the person who drew this talisman was probably lacking in spiritual power at that time, so the lines here are obviously weaker. The person who drew it may have discovered this problem later, so the lines at the back also intentionally reduced the strength. This at least ensured that the talisman was completed smoothly, but once it was activated, the spiritual power might very well break here, and at that time, the power of the entire earth-shattering talisman would be greatly reduced." When the students heard Yun Chuzhi's words, they all scoffed. Some people could not hold it in any more and whispered, "It seems that this Yun Chuzhou has been too complacent recently. Does she really think that she is the favored child of Tian Dao? That's right. Does she think that it's drawing? And not using force at all? That's pure nonsense. A person should know their own limits. She's really too arrogant." Teacher Yang looked at the shadow stone carelessly and then sneered, "Yun Chuzhou, what you're saying is pure nonsense. Why would I take out a problematic shadow stone to teach you guys? Get out." Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes. "Teacher Yang, is your memory not good? I haven't even started drawing yet. If I can draw 1/10 of the earth-shattering talisman, what right do you have to chase me away?" Teacher Yang choked. He was so angry that he had forgotten that there was such a thing. "If you want to draw, hurry up and draw. Don't waste everyone's time," Teacher Yang said in a bad mood. He felt that Yun Chuzhou was just being shameless. If she could draw it, it would be a ghost. Then, yes, he saw a ghost. All the students in the classroom felt that they had seen a ghost. Yun Chuzhou held the 1/10 of the ground-cracking talisman in her hand and said with a smile, "Teacher Yang, do you think it meets your standards?" Teacher Yang, who had seen a ghost in broad daylight, could only grit his teeth and said, "It does. However, if you disturb the classroom discipline again, you will get out." Yun Chuzhou smiled noncommittally and swaggered back to her seat. Tears streamed down He Hongchuan's face. It's over. He would have to sit next to this pervert in his talisman lessons. Yun Chuzhou did not have the time to bother with him. She carefully memorized the earth-shattering talisman on the shadow stone. This thing was much higher in grade than the sudden shattering talisman, so its power must be pretty good. When she returned to the dormitory, she would definitely draw dozens of sacks of it, so that she could torture it in the future. However, it seemed that she did not have much talisman paper left in her storage ring. She would have to go out and buy more when it was time to rest. Teacher Yang held back his anger and explained a part of the drawing method of the Earth Fisher talisman. After class, he put away the shadow stone and left angrily. After Teacher Yang returned to his office, the teachers saw that his expression was strange. Some of them asked, "Old Yang, what happened to you?" Teacher Yang said angrily, "Don't mention it. That Yun Chuzhou is that Yun Chuzhou who loves to stir up trouble the most. I don't know what has gotten into her, but she came to my class to listen in." Just as Teacher Yang finished speaking, Teacher Lu, who was teaching Yun Chuzhi's talisman seal class, said with a smile, although that little girl has a temperament, she is not unreasonable. She was listening in on a class. Why did she make you so angry? Teacher Yang looked at Teacher Lu in annoyance. Isn't she unreasonable? If she was just listening in, it would have been fine. But she insisted that there was something wrong with the information on the shadow stone I used in class. Do you think she was just looking for trouble? When the other teachers heard Teacher Yang's words, they immediately echoed, "What?" She said there was a problem with the information on the shadow stone. You must be joking. What could a little girl like her see through? That's right. Besides, the information on the shadow stone has been used for hundreds of years. How could there be a problem? This Yunchujio was adopted by the Yi family as the daughter of the first wife. The last time, she saved a first-year student at the heavenly pit of the divine axe. She must have been a little too complacent. She really overestimated herself. Everyone was talking at once. Then, Teacher Lu asked curiously, "Old Yang, what question did she ask?" The other teachers were also very curious. They all looked at Teacher Yang. Teacher Yang simply took out the shadow stone and then repeated what Yun Chujio said. Then, he said sarcastically, "She really overestimated herself. How could a little girl like her see through her strength?" And she even said some nonsense about her strength being greatly reduced. It really makes people laugh. When the teachers heard Teacher Yang's words, they all shook their heads. It seemed that this Yunchujio was really too impetuous. She was simply spouting nonsense. This shadow stone had been used for thousands of years. Could it be that all the teachers were inferior to a little girl like her? The crowd discussed for a while and then switched to another topic. She was just a little girl who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. After being persuaded by everyone, the anger in Teacher Yang's heart had mostly dissipated. Just as he was about to put away the shadow stone, he saw Teacher Lin from the Miscellaneous Affairs Department walk in with a teacher. The teachers from the Talisman office were stunned. Teacher Lin was the chief teacher of the Miscellaneous Affairs Department. Why was he here? Everyone knew Teacher Yuan, who was behind Teacher Lin. Teacher Yuan distributed teaching materials, such as the shadow stone, sound recording stone, or talisman paper needed for teaching. Everyone exchanged pleasantries. Teacher Lin said somewhat embarrassedly, "Everyone, I'm really sorry. Little Yuan used to be in charge of distributing school materials. This year, he only started distributing teaching materials, so he's not very familiar with the business." Teacher Yang and the others were confused. What did his familiarity with the business have to do with their talisman papers? Teacher Lin glared at Teacher Yuan. "You tell me. What's going on?" Teacher Yuan's face turned red. He took out a jade slip. On it was the record of receiving teaching materials. Then, he said unnaturally, "I'm really sorry, everyone. When school started, Teacher Yang came to my place to receive a batch of teaching materials. One of them was the shadow stone of the earth-splitting talisman. I took it by mistake. According to the records, the shadow stone in your hand was used to explain a case of failure." The room immediately became silent. The teacher at the talisman seal, especially Teacher Yang, felt that his mind was blank. He actually took a wrong Earth Fisher talisman shadow stone. He was still eagerly lecturing other students. If the affairs department was said to have made a mistake in their work, then he was simply misleading people's children. Teacher Yang's voice was slightly trembling. "Teacher Yuan, show me the description of the shadow stone." Teacher Yuan saw that Teacher Yang's expression was not good and his voice was trembling. He felt that Teacher Yang must be very angry. He quickly showed Teacher Yang the relevant records of the shadow stone. The other teachers also gathered around. On the jade slip, it was written, Shadow Stone number 159, a failure case of the earth-splitting talisman. During the process of drawing the talisman, the spiritual power of the talisman was not sufficient, and the strength of the talisman was obviously weakened at 1/10 of the pattern. Although the talisman was barely completed after adjusting the spiritual power, this talisman was only slightly stronger than the useless one. This case mainly emphasized to the students that during the process of drawing the talisman, the output of spiritual power must be uniform. Even the slightest difference would result in a great difference in the power of the talisman. Teacher Lu walked to the back of the shadow stone and indeed found the number in the lower right corner. It was indeed 159. It seemed that this shadow stone was indeed a defective product, a failure case. Teacher Yang's head buzzed. It was Teacher Lu and the other teachers who helped to get the correct shadow stone. This shadow stone with the number 159 did not return. They wanted to stay and study it again. Teacher Lin and Teacher Yuan exchanged some pleasantries before leaving. The atmosphere at the talisman seal was very awkward. They felt their faces burn. They had participated in the discussion just now, belittling Yun Chujio to the point that she was worthless. They ridiculed her for being a little girl who did not know the immensity of heaven and earth. In the end, now, it was a slap in the face. Especially Teacher Yang. His face hurt as much as he scolded her previously. Teacher Lu was obviously more open-minded. He smiled and said, "All right, it's inevitable for people to be negligent. It's a good thing that we discovered it earlier. It can also be considered as a lesson for us." As Teacher Lu spoke, he walked up to the shadow stone and carefully observed it. He really did discover the subtle differences in the lines. He could not help but sigh as he looked at it. If I didn't deliberately observe it, I really wouldn't have noticed it. Tell me, how did that Yun Chujio discover it? With Teacher Lu's words, the awkward atmosphere in the room finally eased up a little. A few teachers gathered around and also carefully observed the earth fissure rune patterns on the shadow stone. They had taken it for granted before, so they did not take a closer look. Now that they had seen the problem, their old faces flushed red. Teacher Yang's face was as red as a monkey's butt. With great difficulty, he managed to squeeze out a sentence. "Next time during the talisman class, he'll ask that little girl." Everyone knew that he was embarrassed, so they all changed the topic. The awkward atmosphere in the room was finally resolved. A certain Jiu did not know that because of her words, the teachers at the talisman office were all embarrassed. She was sitting across from Tian Dao Cliff, chatting with Tian Dao Cliff. Yun Chujio was talking about the trivial matters of the Yi family. As for the heavenly Dao Cliff, it had been lonely and cold for so many years. Even the trivial matters were listened to with great interest. Occasionally, she would even help Yun Chujio scold them. The sun was setting in the west. Yun Chujio stood up and stretched. "Little Tian, I'll come and chat with you another day. I'm leaving. Wait, I remember something. There was a strange person. He seemed to want to go down to the bottom of the valley. I used some divine powers, but he didn't succeed. Who is it?" Yun Chujio thought of the divine axe heavenly pit teleportation formation. She felt that it might be related to the person that Tian Dao Cliff mentioned. "I don't know that person. In my opinion, those people all look the same. Only you are different," Tian Daoya muttered. "You can at least tell if they are students or teachers, right?" The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. It turned out that Tian Dao was also face-blind. "Teacher, he is wearing the teacher's clothes." "Teacher?" Yun Chujio was in a dilemma. Xingtian Academy had hundreds of teachers. They couldn't possibly bring their portraits over for the heavenly Dao Cliff to identify, right? Besides, the heavenly Dao Cliff had face blindness, so they might not be able to recognize them through the portraits. Besides, although that person wanted to go down to the bottom of the valley, he might not be the one who destroyed the teleportation array. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio told the heavenly Tao cliff to pay more attention and remember a few characteristics of that person next time. Then, she strolled out of the heavenly Tao cliff. As Yun Chujio walked, she thought about the destruction of the teleportation formation last time. Old Master Yi said that this matter had nothing to do with Gushi and Lu Shi. Then who was the one who instigated it? And who was the one who destroyed the teleportation formation? Yi Xinwan. Yun Chujio felt that it was unlikely. Although people like Yi Xinwan were vicious, they didn't have any shrewdness and wouldn't use such a roundabout method. Moreover, at that time, Yi Xinwan had not been instigated by Lu Shi, so she should not have wanted to kill her. Yun Chujio thought of the assassination she had encountered in the Hidden Tiger City. That person was wearing the clothes of the Yi family, but it did not seem to be someone from the Gushi and Lu Shi. Could it be that someone from the Yi family wanted her life? Perhaps it was a branch of the Yi family. However, the branch of the Yi family did not have any conflict of interest with her, so there was no need to spend so much money to kill her. The more Yun Chujio thought about it, the more clueless she became, so she simply stopped thinking about it. After returning to the dormitory, this guy seemed to be on steroids. He took out the talisman paper and began to draw the earth-shattering talisman. Although she had already understood the pattern of the earth-shattering talisman by heart, she still failed the first 2 times. Halfway through drawing, due to the unstable output of spiritual power, the talisman paper turned into ashes. Yun Chujio steadied her mind and started drawing the 3rd time. This time, she succeeded. However, Yun Chujio shook her head discontentedly. It's only a low-grade talisman. I still need to practice a few more times. Fortunately, there were no outsiders present. Otherwise, if they heard what Yun Chujio said, they would probably be so angry that they would vomit blood. She had already succeeded after drawing only 3 pieces, and you were still not satisfied? What a pervert. Yun Chujio drew a few more pieces and finally succeeded in drawing a supreme-grade earth-shattering talisman. This guy first showed off for a while, then he started to draw talismans crazily until the blank talismans in his storage ring were all drawn away. Only then did he stop, still not satisfied. TSK, this talisman drawing was also addictive. It seemed that it was better to buy more talismans during the break. Yun Chujio washed up briefly and took out the class schedule for each grade. The next afternoon, the 2nd grade had an alchemy class, so this guy decided to continue his freeloading. Firstly, she had yet to obtain the 7 transformation life creation pill that she had promised the Mo family's great elder. Secondly, Guai Chao's mouth was becoming more and more crafty. He was already fed up with Yun Chujio's existing pills and kept clamoring about being hungry. Therefore, after taking an afternoon nap the next day, this fellow once again came to the 2nd grade's day classroom. As most of the students only chose to take the 5 techniques of cultivators, the students in the classroom were all unfamiliar faces. When they saw Yun Chujio, they were naturally extremely curious. What was this little devil doing here? They heard that she had stirred up some trouble in the talisman seal class yesterday. Was she also trying to stir up trouble in the alchemy class? Why did she target the 2nd grade? Why didn't she go to another grade? Among the crowd, a pair of sinister eyes stared at Yun Chujio. It was Zhu Jingtong. Although many people said that Zhu Jingtai's death had nothing to do with Yun Chujio, he still hated Yun Chujio. If she hadn't meddled, his younger brother might not have died. As for Yun Chujio saving other students, what did the lives of those people have to do with him? Zhu Jingtong was afraid that Yun Chujio would discover him, so he quickly averted his gaze. He could not confront Yun Chujio head-on right now. He had to wait for an opportunity, a chance that he could hit with one strike. Yun Chujio glanced around and found an empty seat next to a fatty. She walked over and asked with a smile, "Senior, is there anyone inside?" The fatty stood up and let Yun Chujio enter and sit down. A gossipy light flashed in his eyes as he asked with a flattering smile, "Junior Yun, are you planning to sit in on the alchemy class?" When the fatty saw Yun Chujio nod, he continued to say fawningly, "Your luck is not bad. Normally, our alchemy class goes to the alchemy room. It's just that today is a theory class, so we will be in the classroom." The corner of Yun Chujio's eyes twitched. It was actually a theory class again. Speaking of which, she was also confused. The alchemy class in the classroom was naturally a theory class. Alchemy was not like talisman seals, where one could just find a place to operate it. However, since she had already come, she could not leave now. So, theory was theory. After a while, Instructor Luo, who was in class, walked in. Instructor Luo did not notice Yun Chujio. He said to the crowd, "The alchemy room was originally arranged for the use of the 3rd grade, but because the instructor who taught them had something urgent, their class was cancelled. Therefore, we will still go to the alchemy room for this class. Let's go." The crowd followed Instructor Luo out of the classroom and headed to the alchemy room. Yun Chujio swaggered behind the crowd. She did not look guilty at all, as if she was a 2nd grader. The crowd did not dare to expose her, for fear of her revenge. Thus, this fellow successfully followed the crowd to the alchemy room. This alchemy room was prepared for the students. In the middle was the instructor's operating table, and around it was the student's operating table. Under the operating table was the earth fire that was connected. As long as one pressed the switch, they could use it. It was very convenient. Yun Chujio shamelessly occupied the best spot. The rest of the people dared to be angry but did not dare to say anything. They could only hope that Instructor Luo would discover this dove that was occupying the magpie's nest. Instructor Luo was probably too focused on his lecture and did not pay much attention to it. Of course, he did not think that there would be people who would come to take advantage of the class. The main reason was that no one had ever done this before. Instructor Luo took out some herbs from his storage ring. He said to the crowd, "Today, I will demonstrate the refinement of the level 11 clear heart and break adversity pill. I have already explained the formula to you. Today, I will mainly observe the steps of my refinement." Instructor Luo pointed casually. "You, recite the formula for the clear heart and break adversity pill." Yun Chujio looked at Teacher Luo's finger with an expression of exasperation. Why was it so difficult to get a lesson? Getting a lesson on talismans and now getting a lesson on alchemy, why was it so difficult? The students couldn't help but gloat. They deserved it. "I told you to take the best seat, but you got your comeuppance this time, didn't you?" Yun Chujio complained in her heart. How would she know the formula for the heart cleansing and breaking adversity pill? If she knew the formula, she wouldn't have come to the class. Teacher Luo, who was fiddling with the herbs, saw that there was no movement for a long time. He then raised his head and saw the little girl standing there. He cried out in surprise, "Yun Chujio, how did you get in?" You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.